You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio. WZYE 95.9 FM.
And of course, let me say a special hello to all the WZYE 95.9 FM listeners. Yes, people. It's in the village with the DAG Triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM. And of course, we come to you every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 7 to 9 p.m. That's Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 7 to 9 p.m. Let me bring in the storm. And you notice my background a little different, right? You notice?
Yeah, I noticed.
Well, things move in mysterious ways. There's an electrical outage in our community. So I'm actually at Seton University.
That is
in one of my classrooms doing this.
All right.
So
technology.
I couldn't let this night go by without us doing this live. So
had to.
Yeah, so let me come over here to Seton Hall and do this live. We already got people already locked in. We already have Lana locked in. Lana, welcome. We're gonna address that issue, Lana. She says she don't understand the reason why they locked up David. And we're gonna address that. And we also see that the Storm put out a little piece. We go play a little bit of that piece too that the Storm put out. Let me bring in Tommy. Tommy, welcome, my friend. How are you?
Good evening, friends. Good evening, family, and all the listeners.
Good evening, Tom. Vex today.
Yeah, I could tell she vexed because we get a little taste of her right here in New Jersey.
Boy, Tommy, you see that Storm boy? Tommy, I have seen you doing this live,
Boy,
I am actually in one of my classrooms. So for all the people in Trinidad and Tobago, I am actually in a classroom at Seton University doing this live. It's one of the classrooms I normally use to teach my students. So, I could bring some of you guys into the class as well. And when I'm finished, maybe I could turn around the thing and show you a little bit in the class and thing, because, a lot of people in Trinidad is not a professor now.
Yeah.
Because the little black boy from Chumaka, professor. Ulrich, welcome, boy. Ulrich in the house early tonight. Yeah, man. The thing in Trinidad and Tobago ain't easy. But listen now, before we even start that, only watch this one, Watch this. Even though I'm not in the studio, we could still do the same thing. That's what's good about the platform that we have. Watch this, 2 new vessels coming in Trinidad, Watch it. So we go be locking up Venezuelans like crazy.
if any remain.
We go be locking. We go be, if any, boy, there are plenty more, boy.
But I understand some of them have the application on the and the National Security Minister's desk. They want to go back home. They want permission to go back home.
Oh, they want to go back to Venezuela? Nah. I ain't believe that, Tom. I ain't believe that, man.
Okay.
What are you going back to Venezuela for?
Well, who want to stay there with the Delta variant thing? Are they vaccinating the Venezuelan nationals?
Yeah. Anybody want to get a vaccine, getting it? Anybody. They ain't stopping nobody from getting a vaccine. Right?
But what I heard is that the National Security Minister had 500 applications on his desk from Venezuelans who want an exemption to get back home.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Which National Security Minister?
Our new National Security Minister.
I don't know. Hey, outside child, they take the fuzz out your brain now. Which National Security Minister? They have 2. Which desk? Which one of them desk line on?
You're good, Storm. You're good. Storm, you're good. You're good. You're good. Storm, you're good. The one who got the muzzle on.
Okay. Well, that's now differentiated.
Oh, okay. Which one are the muzzle, Tommy?
Your boy.
If you don't know, I don't know.
Fitzy. We don't see Fitzy at all.
If you don't know, I don't know.
Lana say, so you're telling me if I want to drop a letter by the Commissioner of Police for a peaceful protest, I go get locked up before I reach Commissioner office? How do you mean? Yeah, you will get locked up.
My question is, if 1 million, now let me leave the point off for the little babes in arms and the little toddlers, right? If 1 million people decide they're going to drop off letters, they're going to lock up 1 million people?
Yeah, how you mean? Lock them, you know, is everybody who ain't locked up, you know? They're going to bring out the army, they're going to bring out the Coast Guard, all of them. Yeah, they're going to even bring out the, what is that Syrian company again? What else?
Transport? SWAT?
No, there's transport.
Amalgamated?
Yeah, they're going to bring out amalgamated people too.
By the way, tonight, you didn't tell me how my audio sounding tonight.
Better. You sound like an inside child.
But Tony, listen to this. You see in here, we know what we have to do to fix it, and we just get it done.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And when we get it done, we just keep it moving.
Correct is right.
Correct is right.
We don't call one another names and all that.
Yeah. Let me say a special welcome to Linda. Linda, good night. Yeah, we're having a good week so far, but we have a storm here in New Jersey. And I am coming to you guys from Seton Hall University in one of my classrooms. Since Seton Hall is very close to me, I said, no, boy, I can't pass up this one tonight. So
and it's battering us here in Connecticut also. Outside it's dark and raining and lightning. I'm like, oh, I want to go to the mailbox. Our mailboxes are, you know, I'm frightened. I don't like lightning.
Yeah.
Wait. You are the storm and you don't like some of your attributes?
I don't like lightning.
That's one of your attributes.
I will pelt some rain and wind in here. I don't like lightning.
All right.
Lana says, I think we had an episode of the Go Along, Get Along gang today with David. Ulrich says, it's so sad what my country have come to. Wait now, Ulrich, I just say this. Wait. Listen to this. We go get back to that thing right earlier. Listen to this.
47 music. This is oh Lord, Trinidad and Tobago. This is DJ Bravo. I'm hurting it up. This is a sad place. My country turned into a sad place. When I look around, it's only sad face. Our country turned into a sad place. All I see in front of me, nightmares turn into reality. Like somebody build a monster factory. Parliament a pick a parliament economy. But let the moderator send another body in a dream. Somebody girl child missing, another rape again. And next road stain with somebody's son brain. Who take the S out of Port of Spain. This is a sad place. My country turned into a sad place. When I look around, it's only sad face. Our country turned into a sad place. Now with the love, with the vibes, with the hope. Now tell me something, how we really want we cope. When the children breathing in too much gun smoke. And the Coast Guard can never see a boat. You're someone like some goats when they come looking for votes. Fit the empty promises, reading like a horoscope. Justice for sale in a fat envelope. Politically, all the answers is a joke. This is a sad place. My country turned into a sad place. When I look around, it's only sad face. Our country turned into a sad place. All I see in front of me, Nightmares turn into reality. Like somebody build a monster factory. Parliament up in the parliament economy. But look the moderator saying another body in a jail. Somebody girl child missing, another rape again. And next road stain with somebody's son brain. Who take the S out of Port of Spain? This is us.
That's for real, man. For real,
What a
real,
pain.
real. Man, somebody take the S out of Port of Spain, boy.
What a pain.
Port
Yeah,
of
no,
Spain, boy.
it's Porter ache.
Yeah. Albert Montano, good afternoon to you, boy, as well.
I was speaking to a mutual friend of ours, Anne Slim, and I respect her opinion, and we know her, you know. And she stated that, from her opinion, Mr. Welch was provoking the police by walking with the video and his tone and his actions in the past, and that is why it's culminated in him being treated the way he was by the police. I disagreed with her. I said, well, he has a right to videotape himself walking peacefully in the streets. You know, I mean, you know, he wasn't cursing at anyone. He wasn't threatening anyone. He wasn't, he said, I'm coming to deliver a letter, and the contents of the letter is requesting permission to have what would you call it? A march, a protest, a
peaceful motorcade on Friday.
A motorcade on Friday, and they were going to be in their cars. So I beg to differ with her, but we will continue the conversation another time. You know, she said in that atmosphere in Trinidad, they're not accustomed to that. And you know, I said, well, you know, he has, you know, if they're born, I don't like what happened today. I don't like, you know, although I don't agree with a lot of things Mr. Welch has done in the past, I may not agree with things he said on his platform, right? And I am quick. I am one to say I don't agree with you, right? I don't agree in the way in which he was treated today. He walked with his camera, he walked, and then it was punks on him and throw him on the ground. And the person told me that the police was telling him to leave the police premises. Why are you telling? Suppose I go there now to report someone harmed me. You're going to tell me to leave the police premises? You see what I mean? Why are you telling him to leave the police premises?
Yeah, you know, Diana. To me, listen. You see, sometimes many of us focus on the messenger instead of the message. You know, and that's how we get into this PNM UNC thing all the time. You know, it's always a PNM thing or a UNC thing. You know, if he supports the UNC and he's trying to do something for the countries because the UNC put him up there, you know, if it's the PNM and PNM support, well, it's the people of the PNM state. And it's simpler. My simple question is, what law did he break? What was the law that he broke that he couldn't go to deliver a letter to the commissioner of police?
Precisely.
I mean, it is so simple. All they had to do is say, listen, you have a letter to deliver to the commissioner of police. Give us the letter. We will give it to the police commissioner, right? And, you know, you could go your merry way.
That's it. But you had to slam him on the ground like that for?
Abuse of power.
Is that the kind of state that we're going to sit down and allow Trinidad to disintegrate into?
Well, you know, Diana, I look up a police state and I'm wondering, I'm asking a question, is Trinidad becoming a police state?
It has been. The abuse of power is going on forever.
Because Tommy, when I look at definition of a police state, a political unit characterized by repressive government control of political, economic, and social life, usually by an arbitrary exercise of power by police, and especially secret powers in the place of regular operation of administration and judicial organs of the government according to publicly known legal procedures, right? So that's the definition of a police state, right? So I looked it up and I asked myself, is Trinidad and Tobago becoming a police state? You know,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, is it becoming a police state? And why is the citizens of Trinidad, the population of Trinidad and Tobago, regardless of what side of the fence you're on, whether you're UNC or a PNM, and I want to say something to people, right? You might not be in agreement with the young man because he's a UNC activist, right? But remember, right? The things that come into his door going to eventually come to your door.
Precisely.
Right? And, you know, and sometimes when it comes to your door, they may not look at you as a PNM or a UNC or anything like that, you know, but it's going to come to you as a member of the society in Trinidad and Tobago. So if you allow this type of behavior to happen, when it comes to your door, you should be quiet. You should have nothing to say. Nothing. Because you didn't say something, right? When something publicly like this happened to the young man. You know, we all may not agree. Many people may not agree with all his behaviors, but the law is the law. If the gentleman is breaking the law, he should suffer the consequences of breaking the law. But if he's not breaking the law, the police can't just take him like a rag doll and dash him down on the streets and do whatever. We go show that little part of the video. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
That is what outraged me, because you know he walked peacefully. He didn't cuss nobody. When he got to the Red House, which is the location of contention, he had on his mask and I ain't talking to y'all. He kept going. And they just ambushed him and slammed him to the ground. And I said to myself, you know, this is what was done to Black people when they were standing up marching for their voting rights and stuff here in America. And when I put out the live today in support of him, you know, where he wanted to deliver his letter, and one of the people in there telling me, I shouldn't be saying nothing about this country lady. So I had to, you know, hey, we call me lady. So I had to let this gentleman know that I'm a born Trinbagonian. So I have a right to say what goes on, where I was born, and I work and pay taxes there.
Nah. You had to take a side. You had to pick a side.
Inspector Alexander said, after God is police, because when something goes wrong, you say, oh God, and the next statement is call the police.
So Ulrich says, Lana says this song is so factual, right? Now Ulrich says, as far as I see, he did nothing wrong, and I wish we had more people like him. Ulrich, I agree with you. Full 100. I don't see him do nothing wrong. But Ulrich, this is a very valid point you raise. This is a valid point Ulrich raised, right? This is the Chumaka Ulrich now. This is not the other Ulrich, right? You know, because sometimes we just get 2 Ulrich or 3 Ulrich. Ulrich says, if Philip Alexander did the same thing, nothing like that would have happened to him. Ulrich, I fully agree with you. But Ulrich, why is that though? Why is that? Why is that? But that's a great point, Ulrich, boy. You see, boy, the Chumaka thing you coming out. The Chumaka thing you coming out. But no, that's a fantabulous point. You never see them do Philip Alexander that. You never see them, and we could say Philip Alexander have certain privilege because of the way he looks, right? And this Black brother doesn't have those same privileges.
Nope.
We had to speak truth to power.
Yep.
You understand? And that is unacceptable. Right? Now let's see if Philip Alexander will stand up for him. Let me see which activists in Trinidad and Tobago will stand up for him.
Yep.
We just have to wait and see. Let's see if them fellas is real activists or them is just actors. You know, because
I tell people, if I was in Trinidad, I might not have been able to walk the whole Morva to Port of Spain thing because I have knee replacement on my knee. I would have walked part of the way and I'd have walked with him. Diana Benskin, would have walked with him with my mask on. What?
If you walk with him, is a UNC girl?
I don't care. Let her call me wherever. Just don't call me too late. I was walking with him. Me and McCain that my doctor gave me.
Albert Montano says people forget the march with the Seamen's and Waterfront Workers during the 60th.
Thank
Was
you.
it okay?
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Lana
Yeah.
says, did anyone listen to Beyond the Tape on the issues concerning David? Someone on the show said people like David could get the needle for his kind of behavior. You just had to ignore that kind of discussion.
I had a
Yeah.
walk with my cane that day. I need the cane, you know, but I walk with the cane that day.
Just in case. Oleg says we are already a police state. They are here to crush cockroaches.
You see? I don't agree. I don't know. You know, and let me tell you something. That behavior, right?
Mm.
I seen that behavior. Oh, I get a lot of friend requests from that video, boy. That live I put out.
Yeah.
I see that behavior when you go into Piarco, and I seen it already. I was the only raisin in between a whole set of vanilla. And this Trinbagonian that was working the line there at immigration. Now he ain't see the front of my passport. He come and he yell in my face, in my ear. Well, I don't hear my left ear, so he yell at me, hey you, what passport you carrying? So I ignore him, Ansler. I good at ignoring people, you know. I will look you dead in your face and me here and you're not seeing you and I looking right past you. I'm very good at that, yeah. I ignore him, so I'm the only raisin in between the vanillas, eh? And when I get closer to the thing, he said, but this lady like she dotish or what? So he made, yeah, because I ignored him. So he makes an attempt to put his hand on my shoulder. So I give him one ice cold look. Like if you touch me, shit go break out here today. So he calls the airport authority of Trinidad and Tobago, you know, them fellas in the gray khaki. I don't know what he expected. You know, he saw the blue passport in my hand, so I think he thinks I'm a Trinbagonian, so I should be in the, you know, the citizen line, right? But I'm not. I'm carrying a. Yes, I have to be in the visitor. So I ignore him because his attitude stinks. So when it comes to us, this color here, wherever you go into a government office seeking services. I went into the immigration office to try to get a dual stamp in my passport, and they treat me like a sneaking, like in one of them Venezuelan. Yeah, and you understand what I'm saying, right? Until I announce myself as a born Trinbagonian in distress, I need help. Yeah, they treat you any which way. Yeah, and that young man is just one of the fed up Trinbagonians of what's going on down there. And I spoke about it there. He really went to deliver no letter, you know. He fed up. He's showing the establishment the degree of the frustration that people are feeling. They are fed up. You lock them down without any social support. People going hungry. Some of them sick. They ain't got no work to go back to. They don't have no money to buy. The rent due, mortgage due, car payment due. You're choking them with property tax, threatening them with that now. Want to cut off their water. They have no money to pay for school books for their children to go back to school. Half the children drop, well, not half. Some of the children drop out of the SCA. Or they're frustrated. Women getting abused. They're frustrated. David Welch is a representation of the macroscopic frustration people are feeling. So he challenged the establishment by walking. The boy walked from Morva to Port. That's a good pull, you know.
No, that's a short walk, man.
But it's still a good pull, man, Slim. It's still a good pull. It ain't Frederick Street to, you know, he walk a good pull. That's still a good pull.
But listen,
yes.
I listen, there is no excuse for the police behavior. Absolutely none. None. Zero excuse. And Lana say where is Black Lives Matter on this issue? I will give them 48 hours to 72 hours for them to come out and make some type of statement on this issue. Because this is an issue that can happen to many people in Trinidad and Tobago
Yep.
Not people like Philip Alexander and them, because Philip Alexander and them as activists, and them is a different type of activist. Eh? We had to speak truth to power. So Ulrich is absolutely 100% correct. You know, and Lana, you said it. Lana said it absolutely correct. They know who to interfere with, right? So Philip Alexander could walk from wherever he had to walk from. He could go deliver a letter to the magistrate house, to Red House, to White House, to the Prime Minister house. And I doubt very much Philip Alexander will get the same type of treatment. So it will be important to see where Philip Alexander stands on this.
Oh, yes.
We have to wait and see. I thought Philip Alexander would do a live already, because Philip Alexander do 200 lives in a day. You understand? I thought he'd already do a live. You know?
Yeah.
Because maybe he did it, and I haven't seen it yet. But maybe somebody in the chat could say, you know, that Philip Alexander already did a live. You know what I mean? And of course, Ulrich, we still have a colonial mentality. But you see, Ulrich, you know something, Diana, boy? It's the same thing with me fighting for the issues in 𝗪𝗪𝘁𝘀𝗽𝗽, boy. Diana, when I tell you, nobody, no activists in Trinidad and Tobago, none, zero, have sent me a message and say, boy, Anselm, boy, I standing with you on fighting that issue. Because that is an issue for the most disadvantaged people in Trinidad, right? The way people will look at it, well, them is PNM people. Let them starve, because them is PNM people. You see, that's how everything breaks down to PNM UNC. Right? And these are people.
And not fellow countrymen.
Yeah. And listen, I don't care what party David Welch in. I don't care. I don't. Right? But this issue here, right? This issue here could happen to many other people that look like him.
Yes.
Look like him. And you're supposed to have Philip Alexander, who the other, Stephen Rees, who it is? Harvey Boris. I love my country. All of them supposed to be coming out and taking a stand. But you know what it is? Nah, that fella is a UNC fella, so I staying away from him. That's we. Everything is red yellow. That's how we divide the country. Red yellow. Red yellow.
Anselm,
yeah.
Anselm, you were supposed to have Harvey Boris on the show. What became of that?
Thursday. He told me Thursday.
But Teddy Roosevelt said, talking about this country, he said this country will not be a good place for any of us to live in unless we make it a good place for all of us to live in.
Correct. Right.
Got that right.
And that's Trinidad.
You know?
And you know what? What I see, and I am so fed up. I am fed up. I'm fed up with this one calling this one name, this one using adjectives. I'm fed up with the Minister of National Security. Yeah, you're a prolific writer. Use your prolific skills to write prolific bills to protect the women of the nation. Use your prolific writing skills to argue a bill to get the Tobago issue resolved. You're using your prolific writing skills to go and bash 𝗪𝗪𝘁𝘀𝗽𝗽. The people don't care about that. They want to know.
No, Diana.
They want to know.
Diana, I wouldn't say the people don't care. I will say that the PNM people care about that.
Good.
Because every time something happens is that they just always tell me. So for example, right, I put up where Stuart Young get a new Mercedes-Benz in March 2021, right? I put it up, right? There was somebody tell me, well, so what are you talking about? David Lee got a new Mercedes-Benz when they was in power, right? So I tell them simply, I said, listen, I don't care what happened when them was in power. They're not in power no more.
Not only time.
Every time something happened, you had to bring up what them do 5 years ago. Well, yeah, I would bring up something what Kitchener do when he was alive.
And that is what I'm talking about. Every time they get in there, they're arguing like children at sandbar. Well, you do this and you do that, and this one, and she is this, and she said that, and he is this, and they're not They're not trying to resolve the Tobago issue, and they're not. I don't hear nobody talking about how we're getting funds. The NIB scheme is going to run out of money in 22 years. Are you going to put something in place to fund that, to keep the thing running, to take care of people, because the people are living longer? Eh? That's what a study by 𝗪𝗪 said. The people are living longer. People want to hear these things. I personally don't care. I don't care about Miss Dr. Rowley being no vaccine vagrant. I don't want to. I am a woman in a house. I don't have children, but I'm going to paint a picture for you. I am a populace in a house with children, and I'm down to my last kiss bread, a can of sardine, and a solo, and 2 eggs. I want to know how I get food to feed my children. I don't care. I don't care. Dr. Rowley is a vaccine vagrant. I'm not interested in that. I have a child in university. I want to know how I'm going to meet the child's school fees. I want to know how I'm going to get books to put my child in school when school opens in September. We don't care about we don't want to hear about Dr. Rowley being a vaccine vagrant. We don't hear about Pamela Pusar being described in very prolific words. We're not interested in that, MP Hines. We're interested in what you are doing to make life better for us when the country reopens and going forward. How are you going to resolve the Tobago 6-6 issue? These are things that matter to the populace of Trinidad and Tobago. These are things that matter.
Anselm, 8 years ago, when the other party was in power, we didn't have a crisis. We didn't have a pandemic. So what they did then doesn't even matter, because they didn't have the same circumstance that we have today. So what's all this talk about what they did when they were there? And not only that, when they were there, they amassed a lot more money. The budget was much, or should I say, the income stream was much greater. Oil was at a very high price. Another thing too, now Tobago wants statehood. So would it mean that we would have 2 states, Trinidad having statehood and Tobago having statehood, and then an overarching government? Not only that, that would mean that they need to revise the entire constitution, and in doing so, in the national government, we have a national, or the overarching national government, we have the same amount of representation for both islands, and each state has its own budget, like we do here. We have New Jersey, New York, Connecticut. That's what they're talking about. Then let's get it right. Then change the entire constitution. That's my take on it. Other than that, to give Tobago statehood and them having autonomy, Trinidad needs to be autonomous also.
No, well, I would say Trinidad is almost autonomous, I would say, because basically Trinidad is running Tobago. And what Tobago is saying is that we want to run our own thing.
Let them run their own thing. Let Trinidad run as a state. Let Tobago run as a state, and then let the overall, or should I say the overall country government be of a different composure, or should I say structure, than it currently is. So we have state elections for both states. Tobago has state election. Trinidad has state election. And then we have national election for the nation. That's what I think.
Right. To me, Tobago wants to run their own thing. Tobago wants their own autonomy. And I think what Tobago is saying is that Trinidad is deciding whether Tobago should be able to run its own affairs or not. And that's where a big part of the problem comes in. Lana says 1.3 million people in Trinidad and Tobago, $7.3 million grant spent. Do the math. Ulrich says, do you know the sad thing? Black people are calling him mad Black Lives Matter. Mad. Black Lives Matter will never come out. Not even the Emancipation Support Committee. Now, Ulrich, but you had to give them a little time. You had to give them a little time. The saying, monkey know what tree to climb, be truth. Lana says being afraid of one like man is not afraid. They're afraid of him. They want to shut him up and shut him down. It doesn't matter if it's UNC or PNM. They're suffering help. They're all humans before anything else. Some lawyer will take up David case.
Yeah, because that it's unfair. What's going on, and I you know what, I shudder to think. I don't have children, thank you, Jesus. But I'm thinking about the young people that are looking on and watching how the politicians are behaving, some of them. And how are you steering the country forward? How are you creating, whatever, for lack of a better word, vacuums or grounds, breeding grounds for, how are you creating framework is the better word I'm looking for young people to come up and take this mantle and move Trinidad and Tobago forward? What are you doing? What it is you're doing? Everybody's just lining their pockets, and stifling, the 1%. They're getting all the stuff, and then the 99% is suffering. I mean, that should not be. That should not be. No, and people are not going to sit and allow that for long. And
well,
then,
Diana,
yeah.
Let me show you guys something. Let me show you guys something. Let me remove that thing from there. A lot of people is not even aware of this. Hold on a minute. Let me just remove that. You see this up on the screen here? It says liquidators draw US $9 million from CL Financial, appointed in July 2017. Okay? All the people in the chat, remember, I told you guys about this. Today's the 6th, right? On July 6th, 2021. You see what it says? CL Financial is in liquidation. And the liquidator, who is responsible for all CL Financial assets, have drawn US $9 million for just doing nothing. And listen to this, a company is in liquidation. It's in liquidation. And a liquidator makes $9 million over 4 years to do nothing. Corruption. I will leave it right there.
Corruption.
I will leave it right there. All right? So why are we fighting about PNM, UNC, and UNC PNM? This liquidator, a white firm, making $9 million US
dollars
on the backs of black Trinbagonians, and mainly black Trinbagonians. We want to go ahead with this UNC PNM thing. Let me go ahead, man. Fight every time.
People are bilking the country on their backs, and y'all can't get a meager $1,500 grant, but this one guy here gets what? How much?
The liquidator company,
the company how much? $9 million?
$9 million US, $9 million. Grant Thornton is the name of the company.
And they ain't gonna come and divvy up nothing and make sure they get nothing to eat.
But listen, fight. But Diana, you see this here? This is not a discussion in Trinidad and Tobago.
No.
Them people ain't talking about this. People ain't talking about this.
Because they stifle. $9
million. You're talking about, hey, all your leafy is at UNC.
They stifle.
Don't talk with it. $9 million of we money gone. Never to come back. All you think I go get involved with this bashing this one and bashing that one. Listen, when you have to say what you have to say, right? Because sometimes you will support PNM, what they're doing. Sometimes if the UNC say something that's support for the people, it's fine. Right? Look, I am enemy number one in the PNM. But I just tell them, when I go to the bank, I don't put PNM dollars in the bank. And when I go to the store, I don't spend PNM dollars. You understand? When I go to the gas station, I don't take out a PNM card and give the guy for him to put in the machine to put gas in my car. I don't, I'm a supporter of the PNM, but I am not part of the go along, get along PNM gang. I'm not.
And I support no one.
Yeah, who vex laws. You understand?
I support poor people of Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah, that's why I'm poor.
Yeah, of course, coming up at 8 p.m., we have Dr. Vanus James out at Tobago And we will we have a good bit of things for Vanus James, but let's play the audio of the video of David Welch. Here's the video.
Peaceful day outside here, boy. Gary, my letter to you. All the nice parliamentarian vehicles, boy. The PNM, the UNC, nice vehicles. Nice vehicles. Look, the officers don't start calling each other, you know. That's why ready to protest. I passing them straight, you know, but look at them. They don't call in each other. Right in front, I don't give a crap about any of them. Right in front. Look at that. Right in front. If it's one man not afraid of any of them inside here and not afraid of them officers, it's me, you know. If it's one man that don't give a shit about any of them and give a shit about them officers, it's me, you know. The man done start to pull his gun, yes? The officer pull his gun. What am I going to do, officer? Do I look like I'm endangerment to the parliamentarians that sit inside? One man go and storm the building? Are you serious? Look how they miss me with that, huh? What am I doing? You see already, yeah?
Hey, take your time.
No, don't tell me nothing. I'm on the public road. I'm on the public road.
Take your time.
I'm on the public road.
Take
Don't take my phone. Don't take my phone. Don't take my phone. What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing?
Please. I don't know what else to say, you know what I mean?
Police brutality. Call it what it is. Man walking, he going to deliver a letter. And but I'll tell you something, right? You see them police in Trinidad, some of them, let me say some of them. They have nasty attitudes, you know. Nasty. I have encountered some of them that I just say, see me, let me get in this vehicle and leave you standing up here by your post with your minimum wage job. I gone.
Tasty cooking from the South Channel. Welcome to WZYE 95.9 FM. It's glad to have you. And Tasty Cooking says, Tasty, what part of Trinidad are you from? Tasty Cooking from the Soul Channel. Oh.
All right.
You have a Soul Channel, Tasty? We might be going, what Tasty cooking, you know? When we come here, we could come to Trinidad in 2026, you know, when we come. But Tasty Cooking says I'm a PNM, but this is shit. The worse than UNC. Listen. So I'm reading something here from YouTube, right? There's comments also on YouTube from other people from the post we put up on YouTube. You ever one person, okay? You ever one question a person asked now? One question. Was he out during the state of emergency to protest?
Oh, Lord.
Don't matter what country. Let me bring into reality, you could be arrested.
But he wasn't protesting, he was walking, going to the police station to drop off a letter.
What part of Trinidad that person? So, all of it now. So, the SOC.
Oh!
the SOE was on when he was outside walking. I thought the state of emergency was from, I think, 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, eh? I don't know. I could be wrong. You know?
He was conducting the general business. He had on a mask. He said he go in and drop off a letter. That's police brutality. That's police brutality.
Let me see this. All right. Let me go back a little quick here because the comments are coming kind of quickly. Lana Bodu says a lawyer will take up David's case and they'll have to pay David. Really? Really and truly? Some lawyers will pick up that case and make some quick money. Really and truly. People don't like to deal with the truth. We black people is each other's worst enemy. Correct is right? Linda says that. Albert Montano says, Ansem, you will not get the support. As so-called good citizens are the real problem. Right. Now they go support me, man. In a pandemic, country has no money, people suffering for food and job, and politicians buying cars. Right? Yeah, I mean, listen to this. Listen to this. So, let me say this. I talk about this. I say, but you know something? If I am an MP or a minister, and I go and buy a car, because it's a perks, right? Here's what I will do. I will tell my constituency, listen all, yeah? I'm going and buy a car because it's a perk, and you only get that perk for your years in office. However, I will donate $10,000 of my salary every month for the whole year, right, to my constituency. So I want to show you that, yes, I'm getting perks, which comes with the job, but here's what I'm going to do for you all in return, right? So at least the people could feel that they're getting a little something from you too, right? But these fellas and them, so let me ask the question. Has anybody heard Stuart Young donating any part of his salary towards his constituency? I'm asking it. I'm asking because you know the PNM people will get vexed.
So which constituency does he represent?
He's St. Anne's. What is it St. Anne's, boy? Some one of them constituencies, St. Anne's something. So people in the chat can say exactly what it is, right? And listen, and I'm not saying that he doesn't donate to his constituency. We just haven't heard it publicly that he donates to his constituency. So, you know, yeah, bring in your car, you're getting perks, but also on the other hand, show people, sure, it's a show me job, you have to show them, you can't do it quietly behind the scenes, right? Because you do it quietly behind the scenes, if a tree drop in the forest and nobody there, nobody don't hear it. You understand?
It didn't fall.
It didn't fall. Linda says it was not white or 1% treating him so. We have no love and respect for each other. Ulrich says, if the UNC was in government and he had on a PNM jersey and did the same thing, he'd have been praised. I saw Duchess. Ulrich. Let me see if I understand what Ulrich's saying here. If the UNC was in government and he had on a PNM jersey and he did the same thing, he would have been praised. Ulrich, I understand you. All right, I understand you. Yeah. I hear what you're saying. Thank you, Diana. Well said. Tommy boy, Lana said, well said, boy. Love child on point.
I tell you, the amount of friend requests I got from that live and the amount of the people, I didn't know it would have stirred people. So, you know, people agreed with me. I was shocked. I was really shocked.
Linda Gibson says, everything is blame Kamala and them. When will they wake up and notice they're in government? It's time they focus on, you know, Linda, I agree with that. You know. I totally fed up of the UNC not being in power for 6 years and you still blaming them for whatever going on in the country. All you're in power, well, let me put all you, we in power, should I say we? Right? All you just do what all you have to do, right? Lana says, 5 children drop out of school, and only when the school closed, you tell me the Minister of Education knows about it. Miss me with that one. Mark Daniel says, all these salient points that you guys have will never be implemented because the powers that be is not interested in country betterment.
But you still have to bring it to their attention. You can't just sit by and be lackadaisical.
Ilana says, once you're from Trinidad, you're black.
That's right.
Nothing wrong with supporting, but support what is good and right. Hey, tasty cooking from the Soul Channel. What part of Trinidad are you from? Albert Montana. Diana, you are real correct.
Thank you.
Ulrich Murray, the fish hold on. I see you already kind of. Okay, the fish doesn't rotten from the head.
From the head?
No, the fish is rotten from the head.
Oh, okay.
All right, no, boys, the fish doesn't rotten from the tail, boy. Wrong with you. Rose, good night. Okay, I just got a note from Vanus James here. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Just log in with like, okay, cool. Yeah. Good night, Rose. Yeah, Rose, the weather is kind of here. Weather is raining too, boy. All right. Albert Montano said the time is from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Linda says that was so evil and wicked. Correct is right. I see the state going and pay David some money because of unlawful arrest. Mark Daniel says some of these people, as soon as they are left to firm with them, they're ready to rough you up. Oh, Albert Montano says Belmont St. Anne's. I think that is a constituency for Young.
And that is where a lot of the 1% reside.
Lana says, who are the politicians? The people. Who can fire the politicians? The people. So if the people don't want them in office, they can fire them. The president will listen to the voice of the people.
Thank you.
Could only do it with an election, though.
Thank you.
Stop blaming PNM and blaming UNC. Blame the incompetent politicians. Oleg says, no. Don't say we. You, maybe. Oh, God. Okay, Tasty Cooking says, fed everything UNC. I'm from Tonapuna. I do live there now. I live out TNT. What part outside you live in?
What part of Tonapuna she from?
Yeah, she's from some part of Tonapuna. She's from outside. Yeah, let me see what else I have in the back here, boy, because when we come, we have Vanus James coming on at I'm gonna ask Vanus James about this. Remember this young man who passed away?
Yes.
This stranded citizen died of COVID-19 trying to get back to Trinidad. Right? Sada. That blood on Stuart Young.
Yep.
That's Stuart Young blood right there. You understand? And remember Stuart Young told us there were no more stranded
citizens, yeah.
Lie to we, boy. Lie. Yep.
And Gary was saying, the longer you leave people out here, you leave them exposed to, more variants and stuff. And look an example right here. They're treating people any which way. Gosh, my word. And because we stood up in the beginning, we are what? What would they call we? Vagrants. And what? Troublemakers and mischief makers. Rebel rousers, yeah. Well, I want to be in the company of Uriah Buzz Butler, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Harriet Tubman. That is me wrapped up in one. Yeah.
Tasty Cooking from the Soul Channel says that Minister of Education, she do not like people. Says she do not like people. Really?
Oh boy. Maybe Gatsby Dolly or whatever her name.
Nah, yeah, she's no. I think as a based on qualification, she ain't bad for a Minister of Education.
Hey, that's a SAG sister, Watch it, Answer me approaching you. You want to drop a lyric on me or something?
Yeah. Which one? Which one we had a job?
So I put something in their help. We need help in Trinidad and Tobago. God.
Yeah, we need more on help, boy. We need we need all the help we can get in Trinidad and Tobago. Because hold on, okay, here we go. Almost the top of the hour. All right. Gotta get started and help. And then we go for a little. We go do something really quick.
feeling the pain, we can't take the pressure. Pain, we crying. Somebody got to do something. Right now we really need a Messiah to take we out of this big disaster. For everything at all, look, we try it all in vain. Rich or poor, black or white, we feeling this pain. St. James, Belmont, Citrus, and Scarborough. Somebody gotta do something. Somebody gotta fix something. Somebody do something. Somebody gotta run something. Calm down. Only losses today and no gain. Hell, fire. Somebody got to ease up the pressure. Like nobody seems to care about the poor. All them rich people close up the door. And who have the head to carry me through and through. Only care about themselves and that's for me and you too. Then dance. Belmont, Labrador, Arima. Somebody gotta run something. Somebody.
Somebody better do something.
Somebody do something. Come on.
Help! Murder! Somebody got to ease up the pressure.
Somebody gotta do something.
Do something.
Somebody do something.
Run something.
Run something, boy.
People suffering.
Body feeling it, boy.
Yep.
Steve Chuni Lopez, welcome. Tasty Cooking from the Soul Channel says, no is Rowley. No young Rowley control young and Faris, and he can't control the rest.
Lord. Oh, she from Tunapuna. She hitting hard. Yeah, that's a Tunapuna girl there.
Yeah.
What part of Tunapuna you from?
Yeah, I know.
Osco Street you from?
Lana, question is, why is it every time it has something to do with national security, we're still seeing Stuart Little and not Mr. Hines? Yeah, Lana, you are right.
That's what I asked too.
Yeah. Erica says, thanks in advance for supporting the people of Chumaka Clavanto.
Yep.
Yeah.
Why are we still saying Stuart Little and not Fitzy? Where is Fitzgerald Hines? Taxpayers are paying him to do. You put him in the. Well, he must get buffed by the puppet master.
The puppet master buff him.
The puppet master buff him, so he take away his strings.
Yeah.
And he put him in the closet.
Rose says somebody exposed something. Rose, what expose? Oh,
somebody
God.
expose something.
Expose something. Somebody.
Tommy, what they expose, boy?
Yeah, I don't know. Tell me what they expose.
I'm still looking to see what it is.
They expose who your father is?
Why is anybody to expose that is you?
That one was below the belt, but outside child firing hard today, boy.
I was in the South basement. All right, so we have a new person join us. Dark S, Minister of Everything. Dark S, where you joining us from?
Minister of Everything.
Minister of Everything. You know, the Prime Minister, the man is the guy.
But wait a minute. Wait, no, I didn't hear the station ID yet, but say what?
Hey, Tommy, thank you
Yeah.
so much, man.
I thought he played it by the
No, I played. Tommy, thank you very much. We're gonna go for a quick station identification. It's in the village of the DAG Triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM. Let's go for a station identification. I'll be right back.
You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio, WZYE 95.9 FM.
I thought you played it in the background while we were playing.
I don't know. I thought I played it too. Let's see how we just keep each other in check, yeah?
I tell you, you're slipping, Ants. Let me slip in.
And you know that is very important. So the folks in the chat, we are fully FCC licensed, a fully FCC licensed radio station. And part of the requirement of the FCC is that you must play a station identification at the top of each hour. So, I mean, normally we play it at 8 o'clock, even though we might be a few minutes late, it's fine. The FCC is not going to remove your license. But once you have to play it sometime within the top of that hour. So, Tommy, thank you so very kindly. And folks, we are waiting for Mr. Vanus James. Mr. Vanus James is a little dark. Let's see. Let me read 2 quick comments here before we go. Dark S from San Fernando, boy. San Fernando, east or west? Is it Faris Alwari or Manin? Tasty cooking, like she come with some sauce, boy.
What you say?
Loudmouth Fitz, you running CPEC gang. They say yes time.
Oh no.
Oh God. Loudmouth Fitz, boy. Hey, tasty cooking. It ain't easy. Let's bring in Dr. Vanus then. Dr. Vanus, you need to give us a little more light, sir.
On his phone.
Yeah, we needed to go in a little more light where the people can see you, because this is a very important discussion.
All right. I didn't know it was a television show. I thought it was radio. So
listen. We are on YouTube as well as on the radio here in New Jersey. Yeah.
So had I known that, I would go to my office to talk to you.
Oh, that's okay, man. That's okay. We just happy to have you. We will deal with it's okay. It's fine. It's fine.
All right. Let's try.
Right. So I'm getting a little feedback from you. Do you have a computer or anything on in the background?
Well, I am in my vehicle talking to you.
Oh, okay. So is your radio on in your vehicle?
Huh?
Something is on that's giving us a little feedback.
All right, I'm gonna fix that problem in a minute.
Okay, all right, yeah. Okay. So folks, we have joining us is Dr. Vanus James. I still getting a little feedback a little bit.
Yeah, give me another minute and it will be gone.
No problem. So, all right, let's do this. So Dark S says, sad to say, but Munilal area. Munilal is for San Fernando, man.
Mute his thing in the meantime.
Yeah, I don't know Munilal is for San Fernando. Munilal is in San Fernando? Oh, what part? I thought Munilal was from. Where Munilal was from again, boy?
A little below San Fernando. Not San Fernando proper.
Yeah, not San Fernando.
The feedback should be gone.
Okay, let's bring you in. Hold on. Just a minute.
Again, from you, Ants.
No, I have not known. Let me try this. Hold on. Let me mute you and see what Diana. No, it's not Diana. Okay.
Mute Tommy and
No, Tommy's muted.
I have nothing at all.
All right.
Mhm.
You know what? What happened is going to go away whenever it's going to go away. That's okay. Let's continue, because when we have a person like you, Dr. Vanus James, we think it's very important, that we brought you in, and we want to say thank you so much, for joining us. And we know the big thing with respect to Tobago is the autonomy for Tobago. And so, Dr. Vanus James, what you think, or tell the people what exactly is Tobago looking for with respect to autonomy?
Well, first of all, let's change the word from autonomy and refer to it as self-determination.
Okay.
For 130 plus years, Tobago has been brought into this relationship with Trinidad, and Trinidad has run the country as if it has a natural right to control Tobago and to dictate our development path and all our options for the future for our children. And Tobagonians want to break that British shackle that was created in 1889, 1898, 1889. So that fundamentally what we seek now is, first of all, equality of status with Trinidad in the union that we are calling Trinidad and Tobago. That means Tobago needs to have an equal say in the process of lawmaking. So whenever Trinidad makes any law, Tobago must have the right to say, well, we agree with that, and we agree that that should apply here in Tobago, or not, as the case might be. That's the first thing, equality of status, and that's part of what is promised in the constitutional amendment proposals put forward by the government, but not in the actual provisions in their constitution amendment bills. It's promised in the preamble, but it's not there. No specific provision to give equality of status is there in the actual provisions of the bill. All through these bills, you have arrangements for the government in Trinidad to be able to control everything that Tobago does. So they promise in the bills, for example, that Tobago would have the right to make law. But then throughout the bills, they put arrangements in place. So if in Trinidad, the cabinet does not like what Tobago is putting forward as law, it could make law in Trinidad to override any of the laws at all that Tobago makes. And Tobago would suggest to you and to the world that that does not constitute self-determination. Now, for self-determination, the first thing that Tobago wants is a proper definition of the island of Tobago and the island of Trinidad in the Constitution. And we think it is our natural right and our human right to have the boundaries of Tobago defined in terms of the median line, the equidistant line between in the maritime space between Tobago and Trinidad. That would then mean that everything north of the line is Tobago and everything south of the line is Trinidad for the purpose of the Constitution. Let me point out that the Attorney General and to some extent the Prime Minister has essentially suggested that if that is done, Trinidad and Tobago would lose maritime space, but that is complete nonsense. They cite the law of the sea as their justification for that claim, but there is no provision. The law of the sea is an international treaty, and there is no provision in the law of the sea at all that defines how countries must specify their internal administrative arrangements. So Tobago is basically saying, to start the discussion about self-determination, we need to start with proper boundaries that reflect our natural and human rights, the way we normally think of ourselves and the way we normally think of Trinidad. Is that when we get halfway going down the road from Tobago into Trinidad, when we get halfway down, we say, well, we're in Trinidad waters. Before we get halfway down, we're in Tobago. That's the sort of thing we're talking about. That's the starting point. Once we get that, we have suggested we put into the Constitution a fixed formula to define the arrangements for the financing of Tobago and by extension, by implication, the financing of Trinidad in the national budget. So if we have that, then for the recurrent budget of the country, you could give every citizen an equal share, and that would mean that Tobago would get a share of the recurrent budget proportional to its population size, which is about 5% of the population of the country. Right. But when it comes to the development budget, we use what we do that, for example, in the US, right there in New York City. If you read the New York City Charter, you would see what I'm now proposing for the development budget. You would see that for the development budget, what we do is we use the population share. We take the geographical share, Tobago's share of the geographical space. We take the average of those two shares, and we provide Tobago a share of the development budget of the country equal to that share of that mean share. Now, the value of that is that it allows you to take account of the amount of geographical space Tobago is responsible to develop on behalf of the nation. And the nation makes proper provision for it to do that. That's how Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, Staten Island, and so on, that's how their development budgets are specified. And economists generally around the world will admit that as a fair approach.
So Dr. James,
yes.
Why is the PNM, not the PNM, why is the government, this is your expertise, why is the government not utilizing your expertise with respect to the governance of Tobago? Why is that?
Well, I mean, I'm a Tobagonian. I stand for what's best for Tobago, and I think that's the reason right there. All the governments that I have worked with in the country over the years presume to have the right to govern Tobago. All of them. I have met none that does not have that inclination. And as a consequence, if you stand for Tobago's self-determination in the way I am describing it there, and will continue if you want, they do not want that. In Trinidad, I mean, when I was the head advisor to the government doing the Tobago Development Plan and so on in 1997, I came home to do that, to finalize that plan, and to guide the government on the way forward for the development of Tobago. I recall having meetings with the government representatives in Trinidad, and to a man, they were all very clear that they want to retain some degree of control over Tobago's destiny. Now, Tobago doesn't say we want to retain any control over what happens in Trinidad. Trinidad, for example, wants to have the government of Trinidad and Tobago as the government of Trinidad because that's to their advantage. We say, well, you're welcome to that, but we don't want that arrangement in Tobago. We want a separate government of Tobago. And when we want the national government to do things for us, we say, these are the things we want you to do for us as a national government. That makes us a nation, Trinidad and Tobago. There's a national government, and there are things Tobago wants the national government to do, but everything else we want to be able to do for ourselves. Let me tell you why that's so important. Take education. As you know, living in the US, skill-intensive education is the most important part of the education required to build the competitive capacity of any unit, whether you're a business or you are a borough in New York City. It is the degree, the level of skill-intensive education that makes the difference with your competitive capacity. Trinidad and Tobago doesn't have any interest in skill-intensive education. Overall, my lifetime and yours, they've been preoccupied with what they call an academic track education system.
Correct.
But Tobagoans understand, because we are coming from behind, that we've got to get the skill-intensive component in music and sports and the arts and other things on track. Trinidad wants the right to say, we will tell you how to educate your people. Although we know that if we got this skill-intensive track in place, it would make a huge difference to our capacity to develop the Tobago economy. That's the sort of thing we are talking about.
But Dr. Vanus, Dr. James, doesn't John Donaldson was a skill-intensive education?
Yeah, but only in a limited sense. And remember, John Donaldson was a specialized school just for a select set of fields. What I am talking about is skill intensive from preschool through primary school, through secondary school, all the way to university.
Okay, all right. Makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
That's what we want to do in Tobago. We don't want you to come at the end of secondary school and say, well, if you fail, you're going to John Donaldson. That's how John Donaldson's system was set up. But the high quality education was not in John Donaldson, and to this day it's not even in COSTAT. We want equal quality, skill intensive education on what we call our skill intensive track as on the academic track, so that when the two meet at the tertiary level, they are equal quality, equal status, equal standing. But we know that it is the skill intensive track that defines our competitive capabilities. So for example, as you would know from radio, if you want to be a great musician, you can't wait until after you fail high school to go into music. You gotta be learning music from a child.
Correct.
To be a Sparrow or a Machel Montano, you gotta learn music like the back of your hand in order to be creative with it. And only high quality schooling could make you a serious player on the global stage.
So
you follow what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So Dr. James, do you believe that this bill is sort of has trickery in it? There's some sort of trickery with respect to the bill?
I think there is general consensus in the community that I engage that this is all duplicity. The government brought out a bill 2.5 weeks ago, two bills in which they put into the Constitution amendment proposals the provisions to control Tobago's lawmaking. When they faced the fact that that would not work, they put, because the opposition would not support it, they then put in amendments in which they took out those constitutional provisions and instead put into the Tobago Island government bill proposals for the cabinet to decide if any law we want to make would be approved. So they are preoccupied with controlling Tobago, and they're not telling the public that. They're telling the public one thing: we want to give Tobago lawmaking power, but on the other hand, they're doing everything they can to control the lawmaking power. And as you would know, you cannot have exclusive lawmaking power if somebody could come and override what you have to say.
Correct. So there's trickery there. I mean, yeah.
There is trickery, there is duplicity.
So it's like, they're gaining something in one hand and they're trying to take it away with the other hand.
Absolutely. But in Tobago, we've been a very thoughtful people all through my life. And so we listen, we study, we think, and then we respond.
There is something called the right of concurrence. When you speak about the right of concurrence, because I know you were having a discussion, right? And we're talking about the right of concurrence or equal number of reps for Tobago in the Senate in Trinidad and Tobago. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, where we go is once you provide for the boundaries and so on, Tobago will tend to be the bigger share of the national space. But Trinidad would be the bigger population share. Trinidad has 1.3 million plus people. Tobago has 60,000 people. So Tobago is a permanent minority in the House of Representatives. We have 2 representatives. They have 39. Now, that means Tobago will have essentially no say in lawmaking as long as our government is defined in terms of the current House of Representatives we have, and a Senate that is appointed by the Prime Minister, the opposition leader, and the President. What Tobago is saying is, okay, if you want to have the opportunity to have a say in whatever Tobago does, Tobago needs to have a say in any effort you make to make law. Let me tell you where
Make
you have
law
to
for Tobago. Make law for Tobago.
to make law for the country.
Okay.
To make law for the country. This is equivalent to what in the American historical experience was called the Connecticut Compromise, when they were trying to form the Constitution of the United States and get the small states to agree to join the Union. You had a situation in which Delaware was concerned about the size of Virginia, 6 times Delaware's size, and Delaware said, well, you will permanently dominate me unless you correct for that advantage you have in the House of Representatives by giving me an equal say in the Senate. And that's why every state in the US has 2 senators, no matter how big the state is.
Correct.
That's one way to solve the problem of the Tobago Trinidad, the Trinidad domination of Tobago in the lower house. That's one way. You set up the Senate, give Tobago half the senators, you give Trinidad half the senators. Then whenever you're making law on anything, any law, Tobago will have a fair chance to say, okay, we like the law, we don't like the law, and so on. And that will give us equal say on the senatorial side. And the Senate you use not only to balance the interests and protect Tobago's minority rights, but you also use it to encourage Tobago to national union. Now, if you don't want to do that, if it's too hard for the Trinidad politicians to persuade Trinidadians to accept that arrangement, then we say, give us the right to set up the Tobago government the way we want it, and include in the rights we have as Tobagonians, the right to say yes or no whenever you are making any law that will have any effect on Tobago. Any law. Whether it's law on Tobago or a law on Trinidad and Tobago that will have effect on Tobago. Give us the right, that's the right of concurrence. We will have things we will say to Trinidad, we want you as Trinidad and Tobago to do that for us. But in many of the cases, when you are exercising those rights to do these things, we want to have a say too. Right? So for example, we are proposing that Tobago should be a tax-free, a low-tax environment to allow us to attract foreign direct investment into the community.
Yep.
Trinidad has the right now to set the terms on which foreign investors would come in. Tobago has no say. But Trinidad is preoccupied with oil and gas, and therefore its foreign investment rules do not pay any attention to the Tobago need to develop its tourism potential, industrialized tourism potential at that, meaning sea, sun, and sand, plus education for export, healthcare for export, the arts for export, and so on. That kind of thing, Tobago needs foreign direct investment to come into the country to develop those, just the way Trinidad needed foreign direct investment to come in to develop its oil and gas sector. But Tobago has no say. So Trinidad is preoccupied with oil and gas. It has no interest in tourism. And therefore we stay behind forever because we do not have the right to set the rules to allow us to attract foreign investment on our terms. This is not good for the world, to say nothing of good for Tobago.
Dr. James, this is Ms. Benskin. How are you doing?
Not bad, not bad. How are you?
Okay. I had reached out to you before, and the rest is history. Mr. Martin George thinks that you should seek economic independence first and, forget about autonomy. What say you?
Well, I don't know what that means. I mean, Caribbean countries, Next month, I'll be doing a seminar across the Caribbean on economic emancipation. Economic independence is something that will take forever and ever. Amen. We can, as a nation, we can team up between Tobago and Trinidad to work out the best way to exploit the entire set of economic potentials that we have in the country. So you need, and to develop the economic potential of Trinidad and Tobago, you need to develop the economic potential in Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago cannot diversify its economy without the development of the Tobago economy. So you need the constitutional, my understanding of economic activity and economic development in general is that the competitive process is underpinned by institutional development. And the major form of institutional development that we need is good governance on the one hand, meaning genuine democratic government, and education reform. If we don't have good governance, we can't get the education reform. So take those two things together. You don't need to wait for 100 years until you have economic independence, whatever that means, to get institutional reform. You could upgrade your education system in 20 years. You could upgrade your governance framework. No. He's only saying that because he doesn't believe he could persuade Trinidadians to make the change. But the Tobagonian has a joint interest. We have to be interested in Tobago, and we have to be responsible for Trinidad and Tobago. That means being responsible for Trinidad too. So if they are ignorant about the issues, we shouldn't leave them there and say we're going off to look for our own independent options on the economy and not educate them as to what is the best way to solve a national problem. Tobago is not just a Tobago problem, you know. Tobago is a Trinidad and Tobago problem. And I always try to make that point to Martin.
Thank you.
Dr. Vanus James. Yeah. Diana, you good?
Yes, I'm good.
All right. Dr. James, we also get questions from people in the chat. One person in the chat, Lana, says, question to the doctor. Could any outside help intervene in Tobago getting self-governance?
Well, I spent 4 years or so as a senior policy advisor working for the UN in Suriname and in the Trinidad and Tobago. And I could tell you the disposition of my colleagues that I saw in ECOSOC and in the UN circles generally, is they don't want to get involved in these internal matters. You see it all around the world. Just the other day, I had a long interview with the Spanish ambassador and raised the issue of the concern of the international community with these issues. And his first response to me was, if we get involved, you will say, your country will say, your Caribbean colleagues will say, we are behaving as colonial masters. Mm-hmm. This is a problem for Caribbean people to sort through. Tobagonians, like all Black people around the Caribbean, and in the US for that matter, are pursuing true freedom. We want to close the sale on emancipation. And we should not be in a position, although it's not a moral matter, we are saying to Trinidadians, we shouldn't be in a position today where we are arguing over the freedom of the people of Tobago. We have independent interests. Trinidad has independent interests. Tobago is an Eastern Caribbean culture. We deal with each other differently. We do not think race is being handled properly in the country, for example. We believe that if you are, and when you see Tobagonians in the university where I used to teach in St. Augustine and so on, you see Tobagonians saying we ought to take responsibility for making the Indian people in Trinidad and Tobago and Suriname and Guyana feel at home in a culture that has 30 million, in fact, 50 million Black people. We should be using that as a model to tell white people in America how we want them to treat our members of our diaspora, how you treat black people in America. We must set the example. We should not wait for anybody else to tell us. Our experience coming from where we've come from as a people, out of slavery and strict indenture, should guide us to set high standards for treating minority groups. We don't need the rest of the world to come here to tell us that. Our own historical experience should guide us to the right principles. And let me ask you, you live in America. Tell me, but you come from the Caribbean. Tell me which dictator you want to run your life from day to day. If you come from slavery, you don't want no dictator.
Correct.
So,
Right.
yeah, we don't need the world to tell us how to fix this problem. Our history guides us. We need freedom, and we can work out exactly what the mechanics are. And whenever we score a victory on that, it's a victory for people all over the world, including in Africa. I mean, let me make this last point to you and to your audience. What is the moral basis on which Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, and the rest of the Caribbean could go to the African countries and say, look, you have to clean up your democratic footprint if you want Africa to develop? If we keep running these dictatorial governments that we are running in the Caribbean, in every case, you have these constitutional monarchies in which the people really cannot control the cabinets of any Caribbean country, except with in a limited sense in the Cayman Islands. Well, what moral authority do we have to tell the US we want democracy for black people and tell Africans clean up your act? We will not have the moral authority to do that. And in the context of our history, that's a destiny that we have as a people, to clean up the way we govern ourselves so we can tell the world this is how real democracy works. We have no business showcasing Haiti and the baby duck and papa duck and Trujillo and all those people as an example of how we should govern ourselves. We ought to be performing quite differently as a people.
So, Dr. James, are you saying indirectly that Trinidad and Tobago has a dictatorial government?
A constitutional monarchy, in substance. I mean, you listen to the Prime Minister talk here. Whether the Prime Minister is 𝗪𝗪𝘁𝘀𝗽𝗪 or Keith Rowley or Patrick Manning or Eric Williams, they talk as though the opposition don't even belong in the house. You listen to them, you could tell. When Kamala was Prime Minister, she used to talk as though Keith shouldn't even bother to come to the Parliament. And he is treating her exactly the same way now. That's what happens when you have a constitutional monarchy. The Constitution gives you as cabinet the right to do as you please, and the government is set up in such a way that the cabinet is an automatic majority in the House of Representatives. There is no way for you to have oversight of cabinet functions in any Caribbean country. None. Whether you're looking at Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, no Caribbean country provides you a structure of government in which the non-executive members of the parliament are in the absolute majority, and the government has to find coalition between its backbench members and the opposition in order to get things done. In every case, they can dictate to the rest of the House of Representatives. In every case.
But Dr. James, in this amendment, doesn't it need a three-quarters majority in order to pass this bill for
it
autonomy?
Does.
So it's not different?
Well, yes. Well, yes, in that case. In that case, but for the vast majority of the things that I'm talking about, it gets to do as it pleases. And that's why it is planning to pass the Tobago Island government bill with all of the dictatorial tools built into that, because it doesn't need a constitutional 3/5 majority in order to pass it. But there are the constitutional protections are there for the minority as a broad principle. But the ordinary day-to-day running of the country is as if you have a constitutional monarch.
But Dr. James, indirectly, isn't it beneficial for the UNC not to support this bill, right? Or for the UNC to support this bill, I should say, if the 2 seats from Tobago will no longer be part of the election because the UNC currently have 18 seats, right? And if the PNM should lose those 2 seats, the election will be much closer now, right? Because the 2 seats is no longer part of the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, nothing in the bills propose that the 2 seats should not be part of the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. You know, the point Tobagonians are making is not that you should end having the 2 seats in Trinidad. It's that that gives Tobago a permanent minority status, unequal status in the nation. And that's not what equality of status means when you promise it in the constitutional preamble. So we are saying, yeah, you keep the lower house that way, but reform the Senate so that we have an equal say, and therefore Tobago's interests could be protected through the Senate. The Senate is supposed to be the unifying body, the body that protects our minority rights, and so on, and unifies us for the purpose of competing with the rest of the world. We want to have an equal say in the Senate, or give us our concurrence. That's it.
Okay. Now somebody says, J.B. Harper says Tobago could be a federal state.
What's the substance of federalism? The substance of federalism are these two things. In the US, the substance of federalism is equality of status for all states through the Senate. That's one part of federalism. And the other part is you have proportional representation in the House of Representatives. So the majorities still enjoy the benefits of being a majority for many purposes. So federalism is summarized by the two principles of equality of status and self-determination. And you could cook up any device to express that, like what the American Constitution, the Jeffersonian, Madisonian solutions provide you in the case where you have the president serving at the pleasure of the people rather than at the pleasure of the elected reps, as in the British case. You could cook up all sorts of devices to make for democracy. The point, though, is the rights of the minorities, like the Tobagonians in Trinidad and Tobago, must be protected through an appropriate device, either through the senatorial device or through the concurrence device. We know of no other kinds of devices throughout the history of the practice of democracy anywhere in the world.
Someone also says, have the senators were the opposition government or independent? I guess they're talking about in the representatives in the House with respect to the. So have the senators were from the opposition government or independent?
Well, the way the Senate of Trinidad and Tobago is organized today, we have 31 of them essentially. We have, I think, 16 of them appointed by the Prime Minister.
Right.
Appointed. Okay. They're not elected; they are appointed. So they don't represent the people of Trinidad and Tobago. They are They represent whoever appoints them there. Then you have 9 appointed by the president and 6 appointed by the opposition leader. I think that's the design we have. Tobago is saying that doesn't work for us. We need all 30 of them elected. 16 elected in 15 elected in Tobago and 15 elected in Trinidad as representatives. We are Tobago. One of the main points Tobagoans are making to Trinidad and Tobago is that the entire government should be a representative government in which the people who speak for us are elected by us. We do not want this unicameral body that Keith Rowley and his friends are proposing in the Tobago Island government bill, in which we get to elect 15 members and then 10 or 11, as 10 I think is the case, would be appointed. So So if the government in Trinidad is so much in love with appointed people, why don't they change the constitution to allow for the House of Representatives in Trinidad to have 20 appointed members? Why saddle Tobago with appointed members in the House of Representatives we have, but you don't want it for yourself in Trinidad? This is inequality in the worst way.
Correct is right. Another question, Dr. James. If this is someone says, if you get to run things in Tobago and you're having your own money, then why should you also be part of the national budget?
Well, we are not proposing, we in Tobago are not proposing to break up the country. One critical thing that I find is true, has been true throughout my lifetime, is that Tobagonians do not want Trinidad and Tobago to disappear. You can look anywhere you have a union of states, a nation state, and you will see that, as you have in the case of, say, New York State, there are provisions for the whole state to help to fund what is going on in New York City.
Correct is right. Correct.
In the various components of the state. There is nothing that doesn't, when the whole country is helping to fund the developments in Trinidad, it doesn't mean Trinidad should say, well, Trinidad. Well, I mean, the question you pose for Tobago could be posed for Trinidad. Why should Trinidad, if there is a thing called Trinidad and Tobago, why should Trinidad and Tobago fund Trinidad if Trinidad is going to get a fair share of the budget? Trinidad is getting the majority of the budget right now from Trinidad and Tobago. What Tobago is saying is, we want a nation called Trinidad and Tobago, but we want it to be a democratic arrangement in which we have a fixed, fair provision for financing Trinidad out of the national budget and financing Tobago out of the national budget. And let me make an important point about this whole matter, the boundaries in relation to that. Tobagonians are not saying, give us the majority of the gas for the next 20 years for Trinidad and Tobago will come from what we in Tobago consider to be Tobago waters. But we are not saying we want our fair share of the gas. We are saying take the gas and continue the industrialization of Trinidad that has been going on down there. But when all those monies are generated, we need a fair shot at developing Tobago on behalf of Trinidad and Tobago, not on behalf of Tobago by itself. We want to develop our tourism potential to protect Trinidad. When oil prices dive to $9, they need to have access to the tourism economy of Tobago for the national budget. So the argument Tobago is making is not develop Tobago so we could leave and go about our business. That's not the argument we're making. We're making an argument that you democratize the country to maximize the potential for development of the national economy by allowing Tobagonians the room to do the things we know best that you in Trinidad do not know. We have a long experience with Trinidad making the wrong decisions. And for 60 years as a young man, I have been hearing economists, including myself, talking about diversification of the national economy. Trinidad has no interest in that. Tobagonians are interested in that. And we want the national purse to be divided in a way that comes from the whole economy. Not Tobago's share doesn't come from the Tobago economy, and Trinidad's share comes from the Trinidad economy. Trinidad's share comes from the Trinidad and Tobago economy, and so should Tobago's share. Our argument is that share must be apportioned in a proper way, in proportion to the population for the recurrent budget, and in proportion to population and geography for the development budget. And that's all we're saying. So we're not talking secession here.
So another person says, sometimes, these comments are a little kind of tricky somewhat. Yeah? Fidel Castro would have been a good dictator for Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, that's the point I was making earlier. Show Show me the dictator you love. As the child of an ex-slave, my great-grandfather was a slave. As the child of an ex-slave, I would tell you, there is no dictator I love. I don't want no dictatorship. Slaves, ex-slaves, knowing the taste of slavery, no dictatorship. What we want is democracy. Meaning, what was slavery? Slavery was a situation in which the slave master get up every morning and tell the slave what to do.
Correct.
Freedom is a situation in which the slave gets to get up every morning and tell the slave master what to do. And I don't want no world in which the slave master get to tell me what to do.
So
I want to be able to say, you have a voice, I must have an equal voice.
So you're calling Trinidad a slave master?
Well, not Trinidad. The governance arrangements for Trinidad and Tobago are too dictatorial for the taste of the people of Tobago.
All right. Okay.
We're not going as far as to call them slave masters. Okay. I am using that analogy to explain to you what freedom is.
Yeah, I understand.
Freedom is substantive democracy, when everybody gets to have a say in the way they are governed. That's what slavery denied us, and that's what we are looking for today in the true freedom sense.
Another person says, Doc, what you are saying, we need freedom from ourselves?
Well, we need freedom in our society. we don't need freedom from ourselves. We need freedom in the social system we set up. Every citizen needs to have a proper way to influence what government does. Let's remember what government is. Government is a system of collaboration between the owners of the society. We are the owners of the society. And we need government to be set up in such a way that every one of us as citizen owners gets to say what the government must do from day to day. They are our employees. They are not our owners or bosses.
But Dr. Vanus, a lot of people in Trinidad and Tobago don't believe that though, because they believe once they support a party, right? The party basically tells them, what they are going to do, and the people who support agrees with whatever the party says.
Well, that's the cynical way to look at us throughout our history. The point Tobagonians are trying to make now is it's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to move beyond a world in which the loyalties are to the party rather than to the nation. I have no argument against parties being an important tool in the organization of the country, but I have an argument against a governmental system in which the cabinet gets to dictate to everybody else in the normal running of the government, and there is no proper way for you and me to be heard on what we think, when we think it, how we think it should be done. There is no structural way. There is no. Let me just draw it to the attention of your audience that the government is proposing a 25-member, 26-member House for Tobago. In those laws, in the proposed law, they are allowing the chief secretary or what they are calling a premier to pick a cabinet of any size he chooses or she chooses, any size. So you could have a 25-member house and a 20-member executive council. Now, what that means is you are giving the chief secretary a right to set up a dictatorship. There will be no oversight in such a system. And even if the chief secretary was kind enough to say 12, the next 13 would not be enough members to set up oversight committees to run 8 or 9 or 12 divisions. The government in Trinidad needs to learn. They need to hear from the rest of us the flaws in what they are proposing, because it's clear they don't know what they're doing. It's clear. I mean, if you want real oversight, and they say they want 4 oversight committees, you put a chief secretary in place who picks a cabinet of 15. Where the 4 oversight committees come in from out of the 10? You don't have enough numbers. The arithmetic doesn't add up.
Mm.
You don't need to be a PhD in economics to understand that.
Dr. Vanus, someone else says, Dr. Vanus James, it's nice to hear a Trinbago person talking the honest truth.
This way, I'm a Tobagonian. I grew up in Charlottesville. I grew up on an estate, and when you grow up on a slave master's estate, you have to learn to face the truth. Otherwise, you end up in slavery. I grew up hating the planter, dominating. One man owned 2,000 something acres, and everybody else to get a place to live had to go and beg him for a piece of land. I grew up watching that and saying, I must do something in my lifetime to end that kind of system. So you have to learn to tell the truth when you grow up in that kind of world.
But you know, my mother-in-law also said, you know, a liar has no memory. You know, so it's better to tell the truth. You don't really have to remember anything.
Absolutely.
All right. Someone else says, listening to the autonomy between Trinidad and Tobago is like watching two neighbors fight each other.
No, we're not encouraging a fight. We're trying to. The reason we are not stopping this debate is we want to educate the nation, including Tobagonians, as to what constitutes the essential systems needed for us to achieve development. Let me point out something to your audience. The other day I was called to the Cayman Islands to do an assignment. Right? They want to develop the music industry and other things like that. And I was doing an assignment for one of the collective management organizations in the region that's been asked to go there to take over collective management. And what I discovered in doing the assignment is that the Cayman Islands has a governance structure in which the cabinet is a minority in the house. Now, they have been able to develop an economy based on the fundamental principle I myself have contributed to my profession, which is that you develop a Caribbean economy by developing your capacity to produce and trade capital, right? Capital could take physical forms, it could take knowledge forms, healthcare forms, and so on. Now, when you look at the Cayman Islands, they are producing 83,000 plus US dollars per capita a year. 83,000 with a system that allows voice for their people. When you look in the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago, one of the rich ones, gets to 17,500 US dollars per capita with oil and gas. Jamaica gets to 5,900 thereabouts or less per capita. The reason we are struggling so much in the rest of the region is that the capacity to produce capital that is bound up in our creative minds is hamstrung and blocked by inadequate governance arrangements to allow all of us. What we're doing with our music industry in Jamaica is a good example. For 20 years working in Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean.
Dr. Vanus, Dr. James,
yes.
I want you to hold that thought right here. We got to go for a quick station identification and we'll be right back. So hold that thought with regards to Jamaican music industry. It's in the village with the DAG Triplets and WZYE 95.9 FM. We have with us Dr. Vanus James, and he's actually taking us into his class with respect to what the Tobagonians are looking for Tobago. So let's go for a quick station identification and be right back after this short break.
You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio, WZYE 95.9 FM.
And of course, we are back with you. It's in the village with the DAG Triplets and WZYE 95.9 FM. We have with us Dr. Vanus James out of Tobago, and he's given us a lesson, so to speak, on what Tobago is looking for with this new amendment bill. We saying it's autonomy, but it's internal self-governance for Tobago. So, Dr. James, continue with the Jamaican music industry.
Yeah, the point that I'm making here is we are underplaying the importance of our creative industries, and the music industry in Jamaica is not being given the kind of attention it needs to be given with respect to back-end education, infrastructure. You go to Kingston, you cannot find a single public studio for musicians to go and as infrastructure and develop music in, with such a rich talent hub. You go to Havana and you find 7 of them. Now, the point being made here is, if we ran a democracy in Jamaica, the musicians and others would be able to advocate properly for government to do what government needs to do to allow our creative capacity to develop, and therefore our capital industries like our music industries and so on to flourish, and we could then grow rapidly and grow green at that in the context of a competitive world order. But when you have these dictatorial governments, you can't do that. So Tobago is trying to educate the nation about the importance of democracy for our development. We're not fighting Trinidad, we're educating Trinidad. You got me there?
Yes, sir.
My mic was muted, I'm sorry. Dr. James, someone says, if we follow your formula of equal representation, will the East Indian community now be underrepresented given the ethnic composition of Tobago?
No, there is no need to think of it that way. The East Indian community within Trinidad needs to articulate what is appropriate to ensure adequate representation within the government of Trinidad. We are articulating what is required in the nation of 2 islands. You have one island called Trinidad, and you have San Fernando as a part of that, and they could articulate whatever is required for them to be properly treated there. But when you come to Trinidad and Tobago, San Fernando can't secede, and the East Indians can't secede, but Tobago can. If you want to have a nation called Trinidad and Tobago, you need to listen to the voice of Tobagonians to keep the nation together. And what we are saying is, you have the majority in the lower house. We can never get equal status on that basis, and we accept that as normal. But we need equal status in the Senate in order to protect us from the tyranny of the majority in Trinidad. Now, inside Tobago, we want to set up a democracy. So every part of Tobago will have equal status within Tobago. That's the way San Fernando and Toco gets to discuss about how to govern Trinidad. That's why we are saying, if they want to keep the government of Trinidad and Tobago as the government of Trinidad with its current design, that's up to them. But that's not what we want. But this is not a debate between Tobagonians and the Indian people. We love the Indian people and want to make them feel at home. If they want equality of status within the Tobago jurisdiction, come to Tobago and live.
So, Dr. James, someone says, you're giving us the gas, why not the oil?
That goes beyond my my understanding.
No, we have a gentleman here. We have a gentleman here in the chat. You know, I'd rather ask the question before you go tell me I'm asking this question. You know?
I don't know what you mean by you're giving me the gas.
Yeah. Well, I guess when they talk about the line, and they talk about the gas, and they talk about the oil, you know, there might be something that came up that says, you know, if Trinidad gets this, that's on their part. Tobago should get whatever part. If there's gas on the Tobago part,
we're not debating gas and oil, as I said to you from the very start. Tobago is not saying we want our share of gas or oil. We are prepared to say, take all the oil and all the gas and continue to industrialize Trinidad. In fact, as an economist, I would say that's the best answer. But I would say, if you provide properly for the boundaries and you allow Tobago to be properly defined, then the best way to provide for Tobago and Trinidad in the Constitution is to say, on the recurrent side of the budget, Tobago gets a share proportional to its population. That will be about 5% of the recurrent budget of the country. Trinidad gets 95%. On the development side, you take the population share and you take the geographical space share, average them, and Tobago gets that share of the development budget to develop Tobago on behalf of the nation. All the yachting and marinas and all the things we want to do, or fisheries and so on, we get to develop all that, and the revenues that come from that are still collected by the national government, and we still get 5% and whatever percentage the geographical space qualifies us to get. We're not talking about getting a share of oil and gas. So we're not interested in dividing the country over who get the gas and who get the oil. That's not our concern. I hope your audience understands that point. It's a simple arithmetic. If you want to see an example of where it's properly applied, go read the New York City Charter. When I was a professor in Brooklyn College, I read it thoroughly, and it's there. And that's where I got the idea, first of all.
Doc, Tom Nisbet here.
Yeah, man.
I was wondering, based on what has been discussed and has been going on, whether or not we need a complete revamping of our country's constitution to make each state have its own autonomy, its own budget, and its own stately affairs, and then we have a national setup like Trinbago that would deal with both countries as an overarching system.
You mean in the context of Trinidad and Tobago?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, I mean, we as I said before, the Tobagonians generally say they want to have a federal system of government. They want a government of Trinidad and Tobago, a government of Trinidad, and a government of Tobago.
Right.
My advice to them is that's one way to achieve equality of status and self-determination. We don't need to wait on that. The proposal we are making with respect to equality of status is a baseline for Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago needs to reform its constitution to provide a Senate in which Tobago has an equal number of representatives. All the senators should be elected, and 15 should be elected in Tobago and 15 in Trinidad, or whatever numbers that you have. So the substance of what you call in federal arrangement is delivered by that provision, with the lower house being, because how will you form the national federal government? It will still have to be along these lines. So,
but we'd have three sets of elections. Each country would have their state elections, and then we'd have a national election.
Quite so, and that could work if Trinidad wants to go down that road. If Trinidad gets up tomorrow morning and say we do not want the national government of Trinidad to be the government of Trinidad, that's fine by Tobagonians. I mean, Trinidadians have to make up their mind whether they want Trinidad to masquerade as Trinidad and Tobago forever. That's up to them. My recommendation is that the substantive provision that you would need in any case is the provision that if you're making a nation called Trinidad and Tobago, combining the two islands, either of which, remember tomorrow morning Trinidad could get up and say we want to secede. Is the British put the thing together? They could say we want to secede. Tobago go find your way. Tobago could say we want to secede. Trinidad go find your way. If we both agree that we want to have a nation called Trinidad and Tobago, we have to answer the question, how is it properly defined? How is it properly designed? And the government of Trinidad and Tobago will have to be properly designed to encourage both Trinidad and Tobago to stay in the union. and to join the union, be in the union. And the only way you will get that is if you set up a Senate in which we have the same voice, equal status. And then you set up the proportional representation in the lower house. And let me remind everyone listening, it is the failure to understand this principle that led to the breakup of the Caribbean Federation in the late 1950s.
And we right now we need Caribbean unity again very urgently.
And you're going to need to set up the system along these lines. Each island must have equal status. You wouldn't have to have Jamaicans complaining about a Bajan premium and so on. And then remember, Caribbean Federation in its proper sense can't succeed without the likes of a Cuba and a Haiti and so on. So we all will have to pay attention to the way you provide equality of status for the small islands compared to the big ones. It's the old problem the Americans faced when they were forming their union, and we know the answer.
Dr. James, before you go.
It's called the Connecticut Compromise in your history books.
Dr. James, before you go, if you had to send a message to the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, what would be your message to the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, the same message I would send to Tobagonians and to the nation. The proper democracy is priceless for the development of the country, and we ought to provide arrangements through which we can all, as citizens, have a proper voice in the way policy is made from day to day, so that we can exploit and maximize to the fullest potential the economic potential of the country.
Dr. James, I want to say thank you so very kindly for joining us and taking the time. You know, you have gone over and beyond with us here tonight. We really appreciate it. Any closing words you like to say before you go?
Thanks for inviting me. Thanks to the audience for tuning in and listening. And we must do this whenever you have time again.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You sound like a good Tobagonian there, man.
Listen, Dr. James, I normally say this at the beginning of the show. My father from Roxborough, Tobago. My father name is Sharky. Very young club in Roxborough. So I'm 50% Tobagonian and 50% Trinidadian.
All right, so you're the right man to have this conversation with.
And I am 50% Bajan.
Right. So we broadened to the Caribbean as a whole. Fantastic.
Yeah, well, we broadened it, but we're going to pick up this discussion again. We want to thank you so very kindly. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Much, sir.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you and good night.
Yeah. So, folks, there you have it. We have Dr. James, who, I mean, that was really a vibrant discussion. We want to thank Dr. James so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. And let's don't waste any time. We have with us who waited, Dr. 𝗪𝗪𝘀𝗀𝗽𝗪, the PRO for the United National Congress, joining us for the first time. So we want to say welcome to In the Village with the DAG Triplets, and Diana and Gary and Tommy. I apologize. I should have introduced you guys to Dr. James, and sometimes I'm very delinquent in my behavior. You know, when you're from Chumaka Club until, you know, things just come back, you know, your past just come back to hit you. So Dr. Mehe, we have with us Diana, who's considered to be the Storm. We have with us Gary Mahabe, who's considered to be the Phantom. And we have a third gentleman with us. His name is Tommy, normally known as the outside child, but the ladies in the chat say he's the love child. So, so welcome to In the Village to the DAG Triplets. How are you doing today, sir?
Good. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. You know, you're a man in the news all the time, right? As the PRO for the UNC. Right?
Yeah. I understand that. I heard that.
They spell plenty darts at you, boy.
Well, it can just go in one of the many holes in my back. So.
Oh, all right. Wonderful. So we thank you for joining us. And you also said that you know Dr. James very well as well, because you had some. You said he's an old colleague of yours. How did you guys know each other?
Hello.
Yeah. Gary. Gary, you hearing us?
All right.
All right. So go ahead. Gary's
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
back.
I know, Vanus. We used to work together with Lloyd Best at the Trinidad and Tobago Institute of the West Indies, which sadly is no more. But that was Lloyd Best Institute. I was the honorary fellow there, research fellow there. So I used to put together the Trinidad and Tobago Review with Lloyd. The late great Lloyd Best. I hope your listeners know who that is. One of the greatest minds that our country has ever produced. Brilliant man.
Fantabulous, splendiferous, marvelous mind, man. That fella was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Many things he have said have come to pass. Many things.
Correct.
It's very interesting. So, the discussion tonight was kind of talking about Tobago autonomy, right? We can
I'm
get
not
into
here to
that.
answer him at all.
Diana, you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Tommy, are you hearing me?
And tell him, Gary,
Yes,
can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
I'm
but I don't-
hearing
Okay,
everyone.
so go leave and come back in. Maybe that's the problem.
Yeah, all right, he did that. So, Dr. Mayhew,
Yes.
is it Mayhew or what's the correct
Pronunciation?
pronunciation?
Megu is the way to
Mayhew. Okay, Mayhew.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we have.
Yeah, I know a lot of people say Mehu, but it's Megu. The Hindi letter is Ga, right? Which is not a letter in the English language. So, and it's kind of hard for people to say. But if you could say dog house, you could say GH, right? Ga. Megu. But Megu is fine enough. That's how I say it mostly anyways.
Okay.
Megu.
All right. Yeah. So let me kind of divert a little bit before we go, right?
Sure.
Diana, the Storm had said this about, she was kind of concerned that with respect to the name calling between the PNM and the UNC, in that, Mrs. 𝗪𝗪𝘁𝘀𝗽𝗽 had said about vaccine vagrant, and, Diana can jump in, and Diana was kind of concerned with regards to the name calling back and forth when we have a lot of people, starving during this pandemic. People can't get vaccinated. People have to line up and things like that. It seems sometimes they lose the focus. And when they go back and forth with both the prime minister and the opposition leader with respect to the name calling, what do you say about that?
Yeah, I understand the concern. It's a legitimate concern, but I also have to say that we've been talking about this issue for so long, and the media in general have not picked up on it, and the government has not taken responsibility for their terrible vaccination procurement program, right? From January, when the vaccines were available at first, and up to this day, up to the last press conference on Saturday, the Prime Minister keeps giving the excuse, "Oh, vaccines are not available." But they are. Guyana just got a shipment of Moderna the other day. Trinidad and Tobago. Imagine Trinidad and Tobago, the richest country in the Caribbean, is receiving donations from St. Vincent. Thank God for our brothers and sisters in CARICOM. But really, should we be in the position of receiving donations from Bermuda, donations from Barbados, and the government is so it goes beyond just laxity, because it is laxity, but this is laxity that is causing lives. In the past 2 months alone, we have had, I'm trying to remember the exact number, 678 deaths in May and June. 678 deaths. And this is because we have not procured the vaccines that we were supposed to get from January. And instead, whenever we would raise the issue, he would divert. He would go from here. He would make excuse. And I think this really came from the frustration of the opposition leader to illustrate, listen, what you are doing. We are the vaccine dustbin of the Caribbean. That's what we are. When they're expiring or they don't want it, they throw it our way. We are grateful for it because our government has been derelict. But it was just a sharp illustration of this dereliction of duty, and if that's what we have to do to raise the profile, sadly, because normal language doesn't work, rational discussion doesn't work. When you ask a question of the Prime Minister, when a journalist asks a question of the Prime Minister, what about securing the southern borders? He explodes and says, oh, well, you don't talk to me about that, the UNC. He just brings in the UNC out of nowhere. Oh, they own half the whole houses in South. And he says whole houses. You understand? This is a vulgarity. He will, when asked about just other issues, he will bring in the nastiest responses of diversion, even when asked about whether he took the Pfizer vaccine or not from those 80 vials that secretly came in the country. Again, he went off on a rampage and say, oh, well, ask your leader if she had COVID, and all this foolishness. She never had COVID. This is the man we are dealing with. This is the head of the government, and at least we focused his attention. When you come rationally, logically, with reserve, he'll spit on you. When I personally wished him that he would get better when he had COVID, the lashing out he gave at me, I don't want to hear anything from him. It is just disgusting having to deal with it. It is so frustrating. How to deal with somebody like that, with that kind of personality.
Can I intervene here, sir?
Sure.
This is Diana.
Hi, Diana.
So that is the acrimonious, rancid behavior that the voting public, who are your employers, right? And they're witnessing it play out in social media, daily. Now, I'm going to represent the women of Trinidad and Tobago, majority, because we've been helping them. What they are, they're not concerned with, him lashing out at you. And I'm telling you, what the women are concerned about, how are you going to provide a safety net for them, the food for their children, getting them back to work, getting books for their school books for them when they go back out to school. This is what the women are concerned about, but they're not concerned about the acrimony that exists between you. You guys are adults. You should be displaying certain behaviors in Parliament. I am disgusted with it. I don't see kindergartners behaving like that, and it needs to stop.
I can tell you, I am totally sympathetic with you, and that's the approach we took with the elections in August 2020. We had a manifesto, we had a program of 12 prosperity engines of how we were going to how we were going to transform the entire economy. That is what we campaigned on, and the PNM didn't even have a manifesto, but nobody seemed to care. Nobody asked from the media anything about our 12 prosperity engine, which is located around the country, about economic diversification, about employment, about moving past coronavirus. Nobody asked. Instead, Keith Rowley would jump up on the platform and talk about bananas, or talk about a racist ad, which was not racist, and bananas as part of a fruit bag is not racist. And what's the other thing they talked about? A blank man. It was just absolutely ridiculous. And the frustration and the frustration is that when the plans and policies and whatnot are presented, the media in particular, this is a problem. The media prefers to focus on the back end. Like, let's say the Pfizer thing just the other day. We had simply asked the question, did the Prime Minister receive the Pfizer vaccine? And he went on off this rant and whatever. We kept asking him over and over again, simple yes or no, and he wouldn't. And then he said he would refuse to answer. The media instead of the headline to be Prime Minister refuses to answer the question of whether he received, they went with, oh, did Kamala have COVID? It's the bacchanal. That is what they go for. So we are faced with a tough choice. So do you now just play the part of the silent, rational, participant, while you not only have a bully on the other side, but this bully is actually costing people's lives. This bully is in fact spending out the Heritage and Stabilization Fund of this country and drawing it down at an incredible rate. That is exactly what happened in the early 1980s. A lot of people don't realize we had something called long-term funds for I think it's special development, long-term special development funds that was put away from the oil boom in the 1970s to develop us for the decade. What happened is that the PNM, it was under Chambers, just spent it out when the oil prices crashed, right? And the PNM's argument is, well, what is it there for? Isn't it there to spend? Well, of course it is there to spend, but not to spend out like that. And this can happen to us again. And you know what happened when that happened in the 1980s? We lost 2 decades of development. We only reached back to our 1982 level of GDP in the year 2000. It was, and that losing 2 decades of development meant roads decaying, schools decaying, standard of living, infrastructure. It was the crime rate going up. It had real life consequences for people. This isn't just economic statistics, and we are looking at this straight in the face again. And we have to stop it. We've tried the rational route. And yeah, we would prefer that. I would prefer that. I would prefer to have a logical debate where, and a proper discussion in the parliament. But instead, listen to all the contributions from Al Rawi, from Colm Imbert, from Terence Dayal Singh. It's like a campaign platform. Right? They don't discuss the bills. They don't discuss the motions before them. They are just campaigning. And if you look at what they say, they actually do not at any point discuss either the questions asked, whether it be the urgent questions before or the questions to the Prime Minister or whatnot, or when it's the motion being debated. And it just has to stop. This is why the opposition is now putting a motion before the House for this of no confidence in the Speaker, because the Speaker is allowing this to happen.
But Dr. Mayhew, let me ask a question, right? I'm listening, right? You're putting a no confidence in the Speaker. Isn't it going to fail?
Yes, it is going to fail by a vote.
But then why put something that you know are going to fail? Isn't that a waste of time?
All right. What other option would you suggest?
Well, I mean, to me, is that you already know what the end result is going to be.
Yeah, no, but so the thing is, we can't do nothing, right? If the system is rigged against us, which it is, right?
Yeah, but you could find some other means, though. I just feel that when you come with a no confidence motion, right? To me, it's basically a waste of time. It's a debate that's wasting people's time, and the end result is going to fail. I could see if you had the majority in Parliament and you had a no confidence, and it was going to have a particular end result.
Okay,
let me give you
2 examples.
But let me ask you a question. What impact is it going to have on a person who is starving, who don't have no food on the table, who is people who can't pay to get their kids to take the SCA? What impact is a no confidence going to have on those people? Those
because
four people.
If the speaker allows proper parliamentary procedure to happen in the parliament, then we will be able to hold the government to account so that it makes the proper expenditures, so that it opens up the economy, which we've been fighting for. The people don't have money to pay rent. We're in a state of emergency. You all in America are now opening up, right? You all are experiencing freedom. We are experiencing the worst lockdowns we've had since the coup in 1990, right?
And I've said the government have been wicked and evil. I have said it. The government has been wicked and evil.
I want to tell you, so now with the parliament, no motion, right? The motion of no confidence.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
We had a motion of no confidence against Stuart Young as a Minister of National Security.
Yeah.
Do you know?
That was a good one. That was a good one. I agree with that one.
And we don't have a majority. But you know,
I agree with that one, though. I agree with that one.
Yeah, and he got removed, right? He is not there. The second one we had was against Franklin Khan. Again, we didn't have a majority. But you know what? Okay.
You know they're not going to remove the speaker. You know they're
not there. But the thing is that motion was not actually put to a vote. And that's because the majority is so small.
Yeah.
We may have had the majority on that day.
Oh, okay.
The prime minister wasn't there. Camille.
Well, you would have come back. You would have come back.
Right. So, but that's why they didn't put it to a vote. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
But the Minister of Energy, I mean, through his mortality is no longer there. But the motion is still alive, and we have it against Stuart Young now because he's the Minister of Energy. Stuart Young is no longer there. But you know, one thing that is so frustrating about being in the Parliament is that although the government have a majority, the Speaker still shuts down the opposition. So we can't even have our say. But when we do have the motion of no confidence, we will finally have our say. It will be on the Hansard record forever in the future, so that in the future, people can look at the record to see what our case is. We can make our case to the public to let them finally know. Because sadly, the media also does not report fairly on these things. You will see, for example, in the media, they will report the government answering a question that the opposition has asked, but they won't report what the question was. Because, you know, if they did, then you'd realize that the government answer was they didn't answer the question. And there were many things that they left out. So they just cut out the question, they give the government response. And they keep doing this over and over again. But when we have a motion of no confidence, we have the floor. And then who knows what would happen? We have a small majority. We have a fed up public, right? And yes, I mean, it could be a foregone conclusion, but public sentiment will turn, and there may be other ways, just like how Stuart Young, he didn't fall by that motion itself, but certainly he was moved from that ministry because of the issues we raised in that motion, and were finally allowed to speak on it. So this is one of the few options we have. We can't take the speaker to court because the courts have no jurisdiction over the parliament. Mm-hmm. We can't move her. We can't move her by a vote because we need the government side cooperation to move her. So they will, even though they put her without our cooperation, which is the first time in history, the first time in history, every single parliament before, both the government and the opposition agreed to the speaker, because that's fair, because the speaker would then, allow each side to speak. So both sides have to have confidence in the speaker. But for the first time in our history, this speaker was put in over the objections of the opposition.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to ask a question. Isn't that the same thing happens? Isn't this a problem with the way the Constitution is constructed with respect to selecting a speaker for the House, in that the party with the majority among the seats get to decide who is the Speaker of the House?
Yeah,
so,
and that is right. So maybe we have to put a 3/5 majority now. But the convention was the way the parliament worked before. was that both sides agreed. This, Dr. Monilal had mentioned this the other day. Just like with, I'm trying to remember what particular motion they were talking about. Could have been the COP motion. It could have been something else that was controversial. What would have happened before when Patrick Manning was in the Parliament? Was that the leader of government business would have met the chief whip of the opposition behind the speaker's chair, and they would have discussed, they would have worked something, might have gone in the tea room, and then they would have come back and come up with some sort of, but that is not happening under this government. This is the most arrogant, aggressive government we've ever had in our history. They don't even follow the proper parliamentary conventions. So it's like, so as you say, it's like, so now you have to put everything in law because you can't rely on the decency anymore.
Yeah, just in case.
Sad. Very, very sad. It shows the downward slide that is happening under this government.
So we have a question. We have a few questions in the chat. Someone says, how can he take the Pfizer when the CMO said he has to wait 6 months to take the vaccine because he had COVID-19?
Well, the advice has changed. The CMO said that, then later it was 3 months, and then there's the different advice as well. And the fact is that the Prime Minister didn't say no. He refused to answer the question. He was asked over and over and over again. If he didn't take it, he should just say no. But he didn't say no. So the questioner could ask the Prime Minister on our behalf, because in the Parliament where he was required to answer the questions, he refused.
Okay, another question is, another thing that person says, politicians need to stop the name calling and bashing each other, especially in Parliament.
No, I agree. And it's actually not allowed in Parliament. It's unparliamentary language, but the Speaker keeps allowing it. Every time we come up with our objection for that's unparliamentary language, she lets it go. It's not supposed to be there. It is called unparliamentary language. You are not supposed to do two things: call names and impute improper motives. You know what impute improper motives mean? Say that somebody has bad intentions. So you're not supposed to say that other side is wicked and wants to undermine. That's unparliamentary. But the Speaker does not. And this is why we're moving the motion of no confidence in the Speaker. She didn't have our confidence to begin with, but the government imposed her on the Parliament, so that's the answer there.
Dr. Maygo, another person says, will you be helping your supporter that was arrested today?
Yeah, we already have. So we have our lawyers there. And again, this is a frightening police state that is happening.
Dr. Maygo, I want to say this, sir. You see that happened today? You guys know I'm a PNM supporter, and I don't hide it, right? And
okay, I don't know. It's the first time I'm meeting. Yeah.
I'm a PNM supporter, but I'm a person. I like to be transparent. I'm a person country first, right? And when I look at what happened to David Welch today, it's unacceptable.
Yes,
it's absolutely. There's no way to put it. It's unacceptable. I don't care if he supports the UNC, the ILP, the MSJ, the MJJ, whoever. There is no way. If Trinidad is not a police state, it is not a police state, and that should never happen in a country like Trinidad and Tobago.
Absolutely correct. And I'm so glad. And I know there are many decent people within the PNM, and that the leadership of the PNM does not reflect persons like yourself. And I mean it must be.
And here it is, a lot of you guys come on the program, and everybody tells at UNC. But I have to be honest with you. Whenever people from the UNC come on the program, we have very vibrant, cordial discussions.
Yeah.
Right? I don't throw no softball at them. I give them the tough question and they answer the questions. It's okay. But let me tell you this, the PNM people not coming on the program though.
I know.
I don't know why. I don't know why. But we really do appreciate you. And we have a new person join us, Jermaine Abdullah. Jermaine, where are you from? We have new people always joining us.
Very good.
Good for you to be a supporter but you were able to take a stand. What is right, and what is wrong is wrong. Yeah, that's the way it is, man. It's about country. And listen, I also took a stand for exile and stranded citizens, and they called me all kind of names. Oh boy, all kind of names. But it was about country.
Exactly.
It was about country, And at the end of the day, right? Everybody has a right to support whoever they want to support.
Exactly.
And if you want to support your party blindly, that's fine too.
Yeah.
I, as an individual, decide that if my party is not doing the right things for the people as a country, I'm going to call it out.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. That's how it should be. That's how it has to be. I mean, and even in Parliament, I mean, our parliamentarians have raised this. I remember Dinesh Rambali had said this. He was
with us 2 days ago. We had a very spirited discussion.
Great. I mean, he was talking. He was saying, listen, if we have another opinion, it doesn't mean we are unpatriotic or evil or want the country to fail.
Correct.
Can't you understand that two people can have different opinions about the same subject, and they both want the best thing for the country? That has to be your starting point. If that is not your starting point, for instance, you support the PNM because you think that's best for the country, and that is your right. And I'm not going to call you evil because you're a PNM supporter. I'm not going to call,
more PNM people will call me evil more than anything else.
Exactly.
Because I'm for exile and stranded citizens, and I shouldn't be defending David Wells because he's an activist for another party.
Exactly.
Because, and that's part of the problem.
That is undemocratic thinking, and it is very dangerous. The democracy, you have to allow people to have their own opinions, and if they have a different opinion, you don't call them evil. It is entirely possible for people to have two different views to get to wherever. Doesn't even if you want to go to Maracas Beach. Some people want to go over Lady Young Road or Santa Cruz. Some people want to pass through Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
So, but you're getting to the same place. So if you like Santa Cruz, you're not evil. If you want to go through Marval, it's that type of basic civility and civic mindedness and broad mindedness. But we need that, and it is terribly lacking.
But let me jump quickly. Let me jump quickly to autonomy or self-governance for Tobago. Right? We had Vanus James on here. I mean, he gave us an education. With respect to self-governance for Tobago. And there is a concern from listening to Vanus James that he believes that Trinidad wants to decide what self-governance should look like for Tobago. And he wants basically the Tobagonians to decide what self-governance should look like for them. Talk a little bit about that and how your party feels about that.
Yeah, that's exactly the position of the UNC on it, right? The UNC, and that's what we said. There has not been enough consultation with Tobagonians, and leading Tobagonians like Vanus James, like Hoto Charles, like Farley Augustine, and many others, Pamela Nicholson, they totally reject this bill, but the PNM want to ram it through. Now, let me tell you something. I didn't listen to all of what Vanus said, but I'm sure this would be on the same wavelength. That if you listen to the parliamentary debate, particularly Faris Al-Rawi, he was very, very adamant. They were two things. One, they were not going for federation at all, right? Federation was not on the agenda. And what is federation? Federation means where you have separate units that are considered equal parts, right? So the United States you have the federal government, right? So that means the state of Delaware, which might be very small, and the state of California, which is very big, each have 2 senators in your Senate, right? Because that is the federal system. Because each state, no matter how big, no matter how small, are considered equal in that sense, right? So So they are saying no, but they're saying this is a bill about equality, but they're saying no federation, right? And then next thing, he said, we are not going to have any demarcation of a dividing line between Trinidad and Tobago to say what is Tobago's resources and what is Trinidad resources, right? And listen to how he phrased it. He said, because if we did so, Trinidad would lose, I think he said, 2/3 of our maritime border. And he gave the figure. It would go down something like, I can't remember, from 6,000 something square miles to 4,000 square miles, something like that, right? So that was quite incredible, because just because you delineate the two territories doesn't mean Trinidad and Tobago will lose it, but he's saying Trinidad will lose it. So in other words, he wants Trinidad to control Tobago's resources. He's being quite plain. So and this goes back to what I say about the PNM. I know you're a PNM supporter, but listen to what I'm saying. That the PNM is behaving like an imperial power there. Right? The UNC has never behaved like that. We have partnered with Tobago parties, with the TOP, with the NAR before. Because we understand that Tobago is a different island. It's like a different nation, right? It's like up in Canada we have Quebec, which is French speaking, and the rest of Canada, which is English speaking. It's similar, you know. Tobago has its own culture. It has its own dialect. It has its own history. The Dutch never ruled Trinidad. They ruled Tobago. The French never ruled Trinidad. They ruled Tobago. Tobago had an elected assembly, the THA, since the 18th century. Trinidad didn't have that. We had only appointed a member of government. Tobago had 300 years where they were totally separate from Trinidad, totally different. You know, Tobago didn't have Indian indenture or Chinese indenture. They have a totally different culture. You know, and they are different people, and we respect that. We respect that, and we work with Tobagonians. But the PNM want to impose themselves. You know, I would even say something. I don't know any Tobagonians that like the term Trinbago, right? Because that's kind of like erasing their identity in a sense. And Trinidadians already don't bother to know enough about Tobagonians, right? They don't know enough about Tobago's history and so forth. And many Trinidadians just think of Tobago as a part of Trinidad, right? And that Tobagonians are just a different type of Trinidadian, but no, it really is a different nation. So we have had this understanding for a very long time, and we have always worked in partnership. And this is why the UNC were so adamant that, listen, your consultations were not enough. Because remember, we had a bill in 2013 on Tobago autonomy, which was much better. All the Tobagonians will say that, which is much better than now. The consultations were so thorough and agreed to by both PNM and all the opposition parties, and TOP and the Haute Charles and so forth. The way Orville London and Haute Charles got together as Tobagonians was really something. You know, they do have this national spirit in Tobago, which is very admirable. You know, and they got together for that. But that's all being thrown aside, all thrown out now. And they started a whole thing. And you know what Rowley said? Rowley said he is not supporting that bill at all. He's putting the country on notice that the PNM are not supporting that bill. And you know why, he said? He said they are not supporting the bill when it came up during the PP time in government, because any law that Tobago passed, if it was in contradiction with the laws of Trinidad and Tobago, there would have to be some reconciliation, and the laws of Trinidad and Tobago would have to prevail. So he used that as an excuse. But you know what? In this bill he has the exact same thing. He has the exact, and it's probably worse, right? They have, I think it's like 52. They have 52 exceptions to the lawmaking where Tobago has no power to make its own law. So they're calling it a Tobago autonomy bill, but it's really entrenching Tobago independence. And what they're telling Tobagonians is, just take this now. A little bit is better than nothing. Just take this now, right? So telling them to be satisfied with this. Be satisfied that you're not equal in a federation. Be satisfied that your territory is not defined, so you don't know what is Tobago's and what is Trinidad, right? And be satisfied that your lawmaking powers are going to be curtailed. When I believe it's the majority of Tobagonians, by seats, it's 6-6, right? So it's not, the PNM 6 is not bigger than the PDP 6. I believe if you have an election now, we would see a difference, right? We would get a clear winner now.
Gary, Diana, or Tommy, any questions?
None from me.
Okay.
Yeah. So, right. I mean, so that's the basic position there, you know. So we are we want to make sure
Dr. Mill,
what
will it take for the UNC to vote for self-governance for Tobago? What will it take? What would that bill look like with respect to self-governance?
It would have to have the support of Tobago, right? Let's be clear about this, because the way you phrase the question suggests that you don't understand the history. And let me clarify the history. The PNM have always been against autonomy for Tobago, and this bill is actually against autonomy for Tobago. It was in 1976. Right, that's where we have to start, because what happened is that A&R Robinson formed the DAC, right, and the PNM lost 2 seats. Eric Williams was real vexed, and he made this speech, right? He used to get vexed a lot and make these speeches where he would, I guess, a bit like Rowley, right? And
you can't compare Eric Williams.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's unfair. That is unfair.
No, you can't.
That is unfair. I agree. I withdraw that statement.
Okay, all right, good.
I withdraw the statement.
We good.
He did used to make vexed speeches, right?
Yeah.
But he was far more classy, and far more intelligent. But at this time, he was vexed with Tobago, and he told Tobago outright, if you want to go, go. And then he talked about, these days, people have a divorce party, so we could have a divorce party, because divorce was in the 70s, free love, all this kind of thing was happening, right? So anyway, so he talked about Trinidad and Tobago could have a divorce party. He dismantled the Ministry of Tobago Affairs. He dismantled all the special things for Tobago. I mean, it was very vindictive. And A&R Robinson then put in his motion in 1977 for internal self-government for Tobago. So it was him and Winston Murray. And so they fought hard to push that through. By the time it reached the vote in 1980, the PNM threw that out and put in something very, very, very watered down, which is the usual thing. And you could look at all the constitutional reforms, and it's the same thing. And I mean, Winston Murray was so upset that he stormed out of the parliament, right? He wasn't even going to participate in the debate. It eventually passed because the PNM had the majority, so it was a watered down THA. So that's what they had there. But so many years later, they had that. By 96, it's when the UNC got into government with the NAR, and A&R Robinson was there. We entrenched the THA in the Constitution. That was the UNC that did that, not the PNM. And the PNM were against it. They did not want to entrench Tobago autonomy in the Constitution. And I'll tell you what their reasoning is, right? To be fair, right? They talk about the unitary state of Trinidad and Tobago.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So that Trinidad and Tobago is a unitary state. So this is why they're against federation, and they're against the federal. But as you heard, Vanus James, he wants federation. Most Tobagonians, most proud Tobagonians want federation. They don't want a unitary state because it will be dominated by Trinidad by virtue of the numbers, right? Federation will alter that so that just like Delaware and California, right, or Rhode Island and California, it would be like, Tobago and Trinidad would still be equal at perhaps the Senate level, like in the United States, which I suppose Vanus was alluding to there. So they have this thing about the unitary state. So even, they are saying this in the parliament now about this unitary state, and that we don't want to let Tobago even know what its resources might be, right? Because this all has to be controlled by the center. That's always the P&M philosophy. Everything must be controlled by the center. They don't want procurement legislation because they don't want an independent person to look over the contract. They don't want anything that takes away power from the prime minister and cabinet to decide everything. That is the philosophy of the P&M. It always has been since 1956. That's just a historical fact. We in the UNC have always been about decentralization, about empowering local communities, about empowering Tobago, empowering rural communities, etc. That has been our thing, and the PNM calls that divisive. It's not divisive, right? So that's how they insult our point of view on the way the country should be run. But that is our vision of Trinidad and Tobago. So yeah.
So we have someone in the chat says we never had this before in this country. What is happening now? But the PNM will not lift this SOE in the near future. So no vaccines. So no vaccines longer. SOE, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's an insane situation because the state of emergency has been put in, and we have had the highest number of deaths ever. So the state of emergency is not working. You cannot use a state of emergency. A state of emergency is not a medical treatment. Right? It makes no sense. Right? You cannot hide from a virus. It is now community spread. At a certain point in the early phases, that can help, but it is now embedded. And the Prime Minister said in his press conference on Saturday, he did say that if by the end of 2021 we don't defeat it, then we're going to have to learn to live with it. But we have to learn to live with it anyways, because we are not going to defeat it.
16 months ago, we should have learned how to live with it. 16
exactly.
months ago.
We haven't defeated AIDS, AIDS still exists.
Yeah.
We haven't defeated polio. Polio still exists. Mm-hmm. We haven't defeated TB. Tuberculosis still exists. We haven't defeated syphilis or all sorts of diseases that the bubonic plague still exists, actually, that was that huge historical event in the 13th century that wiped out Europe and so forth. That still exists. But, this is what happened. I mean, this is the medical history of humanity. A new virus comes. It hurts us for a while because our bodies and our immune systems aren't used to it. But then after, you learn to live with it. Just like we've learned to live with AIDS, right?
Yeah.
Remember, for any of you old enough, if you remember in the 1980s and 1990s, they said it was going to kill everybody and all kind of things, But,
So Dr. Maygu, we want to just hold it for a minute. We're going to go for a quick station identification and we'll be right back. It's In the Village with the DAG Triplets and WZYE 95.9 with us, 95.9 FM. We have with us Dr. Kate Maygu, the PRO of the United National Congress. And we're having a vibrant discussion here. We're going to go for a station identification and we'll be right back.
You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio, WZYE 95.9 FM.
Oh, Dr. Mayhew left us. All right, so let's go.
Sorry, it was a long guy. I had to take a glass
you went
of
for a
water.
little drink, boy. So listen to this, right? So were you aware that those two boats arrived in Trinidad today?
I didn't know that. I didn't know that they arrived today.
Look at that. You get breaking news in the village, man.
Very good. Thank you.
And listen, someone in the chat say you have a nice voice.
Oh, well thank you. I hope it's a woman.
That's gotta be Lana or Cindy J.
It's Lana.
Yeah.
Diana, I ain't call the person name. I just say somebody.
I know it had to be Lana.
Why you calling out the lady, man?
It had to be Lana.
You know, but before you go, right? We fought with Gary's leadership. We fought for exile and stranded citizens.
Yeah.
WZYE 95.9 FM really came onto the map fighting for exile and stranded citizens. And I, as the president and CEO, you know, gave the platform to fight for exile and stranded citizens. 16 months now, and on July 17th, when the borders will be open, you know, that border should have been open almost a year ago. And here's my question, right? Listen, I'm very happy that the borders are open. And this is something just to show that the government was telling us about the science and they were misleading the people. And here's why. We have the most serious variant, the Delta variant. And the government has decided to open its borders. And coming back on a plane will be unvaccinated people and vaccinated people. It just doesn't make any sense.
Correct.
You know, it blows my mind when and people will fear in that these exile and stranded citizens coming back to Trinidad will bring on this virus and they affect the whole of Trinidad, and we'll have people walking around Trinidad like COVID-19 all about the place. But here we have the Delta variant, which is the most serious of them all. And we are opening the borders, and people are going to be coming back on a plane, vaccinated and unvaccinated.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes no sense whatsoever. Even the opening up strategy, you know, why, you know, so why laundromats? First of all, laundromats don't even exist in Trinidad. I think there might be one at UWI, and I think one time I might have seen one in Diego Martin or Maraval. You know, I don't think it's still open anymore. I mean, I can't, you know, that just made no sense whatsoever. You know, and okay, the construction sector, good, but you know, so where is the science that says the construction sector, but not the food hospitality sector? You know, where we have lots of single mothers, right? People who, you know, people who have the children to mine, and they can't pay their bills, they can't pay their rent. You know, and you know, or mortgages if they have mortgages. It's and you know, and the other day, WASA was shutting down.
Cutting off people water, man.
Madness. While they imposed the harshest state of emergency, where you could only be out of your house for, I think it was 5 hours, from 5 to 10 on Saturday and 5 to 10 on Sunday. I mean,
what about CPAP workers?
We had to push back there, and our pushback allowed it.
Did CPAP workers go back on full salary?
No, but the management have not left full salary. You know? It's the amount of injustice. The amount of injustice going on it's vexing. It's heartbreaking. I mean, to get back to the beginning, it's kind of, you know, it's so frustrating. That's why, you know, all that name calling. It's really a frustrating situation when you have to face this every day. We have to face this every day and try to make a movement somehow.
But Dr. Mayhew, let me say this, sir. Yeah. We here was a little upset with the UNC because we thought they were kind of late to the party with respect to exile and stranded citizens.
Yeah. We called for it from the beginning, but the thing is that when I remember, because I led the protest against Stuart Young, or the support, the demonstration of support in the motion, and I mean, and we had, you know, all the signs about how long the citizens were locked out, but it was always our position. It was always our position. But one of the problems was, and I have to say that this was a problem, that the fear was ramped up so much that the country, the mainstream of the country, were cussing us as the opposition for advocating. Say, oh, you want to kill us? Oh, you want to bring these people home? So, I mean, it was our position. We never wavered from it, but it was politically sensitive because the way the government and the media whipped up the fear of the population, it was a very, very toxic thing for us to bring up. But we did bring it up. We did bring it up, and we never wavered from it.
But listen, it is good that you actually said that, because we knew here how political it was, and people were very fearful.
Yep.
That people coming back on this plane was going to bring back this devastating disease to people in Trinidad and Tobago. And the government did a good job of fear-mongering. They did a fantastic job.
That is right. That is right. And when we would highlight stories of people who've lost their savings, who are vagrants now, or they don't have a place to stay, and just terrible story. The heartlessness that you would hear from the government and from their supporters was just astounding. I mean, it was very shameful, very shameful. I think as Trinidadians, I don't think Tobagonians were as bad as Trinidadians in that. In terms of the heartlessness, you say, oh well, let them stay there. Who tell them to go? All sorts. I mean, it was really, really terrible. But I mean, we persisted, and thankfully it's over. But you know what? For instance, I have a colleague of mine who's in Houston, and I mean, he was a former president of TIDCO, the Tourism and Industrial Development Corporation, under Patrick Manning, and he's been out in Houston for so long, and he wants to come back, and then but it's only Caribbean Airlines that's functioning, because the government did not tell American Airlines, or I'm trying to think who else comes here from the US. It's Delta doesn't come here anymore, I don't think.
JetBlue,
right? Yeah. So JetBlue.
But from Houston is United.
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 Right. So none of those airlines were informed. None of those airlines were informed that the airport's going to be open. So I think they've now been informed of something, and maybe from July 31st. But it was just planned so badly, that for now it's only Caribbean Airlines that's going to do it, because they just did not do proper planning, information, etc.
So here's another question from someone in the chat. Why didn't the UNC put up a stronger fight against the Minister of Works and Transport on the ticketing system, the amount of money on the ticket, and the way to appeal it?
Well, the point is that because that requires only a simple majority, it was the government just passed it and pushed it through. I mean, sadly, this is one of the things, and this is why constitutional reform is such an important.
Important for Trinidad and Tobago. Constitution reform, absolutely. I totally agree with that.
Because in the United States, where you have your separate houses, where nobody from no Secretary of Defense will sit in the Senate or sit in the Congress. Right? Because the Congress is separate, the Senate is separate, the executive is separate, and they all keep checks on each other. But not in Trinidad, the whole government is in the parliament. So, so what kind of check is that? And they have the majority. So the government has the majority in the parliament, and so how is the parliament supposed to check on the government? It really, really makes no sense. But that's the way the system was, and I know you're a PNM, but the fact is,
but Dr. Mayhew,
the fact is that in 1955, the Constitution that Eric Williams was elected under, which he didn't create, right? He hated that Constitution, because
wasn't Sir Ellis Clark the architect of the Constitution? Sir Ellis Clark?
In 61 and 62, correct. But so in 55, what they were elected under for 1956, that Constitution, all the ministers had to vote in. All the members of the legislature had to vote in the ministers. So it wasn't just up to the prime minister. So it's like what you have a Senate confirmation, in the Congress. So we had something like that before. And not only that, the members of Parliament, it wasn't called Parliament there, it was called the LegCo, the Legislative Council. So the members of the Legislative Council could vote with a 2/3 secret ballot to remove a minister. A secret ballot too, so the leader wouldn't know. You understand? So there was much more accountability, but Eric Williams hated that constitution. He said he wanted one just like Great Britain. If it was good enough for Britain, then it's good enough for Trinidad and Tobago. So he and Ellis Clark put together this other constitution, and that's what we have.
Dr. Mayhew, someone says, will you vote for Gary getting another term in office?
Will the UNC support Gary Griffith? I cannot speak for the parliamentary caucus, but there's been no objections that I'm aware of that the UNC has to Gary Griffith.
Karina Gopal-Chan said, this is an excellent conversation.
Oh, well, thank you, Karina.
Yeah, because, I got to be honest with you. I think it's an excellent conversation too, you know what I mean?
Thanks.
And it just shows you that even though some people support another party and other people support others, we could have cordial, informative discussion.
Exactly. Once you can speak with respect to each other, that's all that's needed. That's all that's needed,
That's it. We just give respect. But I asked everyone this question. If you had an opportunity to give a message to the Prime Minister, what would be your message to the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley?
Open up now. People are hurting. People have lost their life savings. They don't know what to do for this month. Their children are going to bed hungry. They're banding their bellies. We've never experienced this kind of deprivation at all before. Open up. Let people earn their own living. We can't line up for hampers and then let a minister decide whether we're needy or greedy. Right? No, that cannot be the future of Trinidad and Tobago. Let the people earn a living right now. That is the most important thing. We'll have the protocols, we have to deal with it, etc. But right now the people are hurting so badly. It's heartbreaking when you hear the stories, when you see what's happening.
Thank you so much. Let me bring Gary in here. Hold a minute. Let me see, because Gary's sitting back. Hey Gary, can you hear us?
You hear me now?
Hearing you now, Gary, for the first time.
Oh, man, I keep speaking and I see like, what the hell's going on with my mic? Anyway, listen, Kirk, I do thank you for joining us. I have some serious concern that I wanted to bring across. The government made a decision not to provide any more state quarantine. And I have some students that I'm working with in Jamaica and Barbados who cannot afford, after the border is open, to pay for quarantine. Some of these students are struggling to pay their bills because their parents are out of work in Trinidad. And this government, as usual, has not provided any support, to assist our students. They have to keep fighting with them. It's an ongoing battle. So I'm asking, being that you're the official representative of the UNC tonight, to raise this issue with the party very strongly. We have citizens outside here who cannot, as you have mentioned, have gone totally bankrupt, and we have helped quite a bit of them. Diana herself has helped me finance, and many others, a lot of people who went homeless. And we had I had to go pick up one lady and take her to Diana's house. And we had to get friends to move a lady out of Diana to another location. I mean, it's ongoing things like that.
Exactly. And there's even corruption in the quarantine system, right? Because I'm suspecting
that.
As to where they go, how much they pay, to what hotels are official quarantine hotels. It is a constant fight for everything. But that's our job. That's our job as the opposition. That's
what we've been seeing for also is that people who get infected in Trinidad can go to their house in quarantine, but people coming home.
Exactly.
Negative PCR tests and several negative PCR tests cannot go to their home.
Exactly.
So I want to raise this issue.
Yeah, what science is that? I mean, we've raised that at our virtual forums. Every Monday we have our virtual forums, and then we have our press conferences on Thursday, and then sometimes in the week as well. But every Monday and Sunday we have our press conference and virtual forum, and we've raised these issues. Where is the science in someone with multiple PCR tests coming from a country where the disease is now under control and you all are now opening up. So they're coming to a country where we are experiencing the worst, right? So we're not in danger from them; they're more in danger from us.
But Dr. Mayhew, if I am fully vaccinated, more than 2 weeks, right? I'm fully vaccinated a month. Why the hell do I need to take a PCR test to come to Trinidad and Tobago?
Exactly. There are many problems I personally have. I have to say, at a personal level, with this whole COVID issue, so you have to take the vaccine, but then the vaccines aren't going to be 100%, and then there's going to be variants, and it's like they're pushing this vaccine very hard on people, but then you have the thank God, I think in America now you all have it where you don't need to wear masks, at least in some states. I don't know where.
Listen, we in New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
I go run every day. I might be the only person wearing a mask.
Okay. All right. Well, good.
I'm 50% vaccinated, right? I'm 50%. Right. Everybody else is no mask.
Yeah. But here in Trinidad, even if you're vaccinated, you have to wear a mask and everything, right? So people ask,
there's some suspicion that you can still, because we had a nurse who caught COVID after being fully vaccinated.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sure it can. I mean, it's just like any disease. Like for instance, I can have the best diet and have an excellent exercise regime and all that, and I could die of a heart attack, and then my next partner could be drinking and smoking and he lives, right? I mean,
correct is right.
So there's no guarantees in this thing. This is just kind of the way the health, your body works.
But Dr. Mayhew, we want to say that we thank you so much for taking the time to come with us. And I got to tell you, this was a fantastic, fantabulous, spirited discussion that we had. All right.
Thank you. I enjoyed it too.
And you answered the questions and you answered the questions that was asked of you. You know what I mean? Sometimes people just kind of, shift the focus a little bit when they think it's a tough question. But anybody that comes into the village know that when you're coming into the village, we keep it real in the village.
Well, it's only the PNM people that do that, and if you notice, all the UNC people come clean with you. So
Gary,
I hope that you are realizing.
We talking about the PNM people. What PNM people? What's PNM people come in the village so far?
I'm talking about that. The fact that they are the ones that are, when you talk to the UNC people, all that the PNM has said about the UNC, you realize it is not so, because these guys are very realistic. They're highly informed on what the issues are, and they have the intellects to deal with it. Now, look what the simple thing that's going on with Tobago. They already stated all this information. So many witnesses are saying everything was all sorted out with the people of Tobago. What is the UNC position? What the people of Tobago wants. That is the UNC position. We want consultation, and whatever the people, we are not have no interest in stepping on the people of Tobago. The PNM has the objective of keeping the people of Tobago, just like the people of Laventille, under suppression, so that they could dominate them and hold a rope around their neck and tell them when to vote and when to eat and how high to jump. That seems to be the PNM objective. I was trying to be very fair to both political parties. Whoever is in power, it's okay. I mean, that's how the thing goes.
Gary, you sound like a UNC there, boy.
But when you see, but I tell them, I'm being very
good. What's wrong with that?
Listen. You have to catch on to this.
You're right.
You have to catch on to this. When you see the level of abuse and the wickedness and the objective to be like dictators and the most brutal type of dictatorship, Faris Al-Wari, Stuart Young, Dr. Rowley, but forget the Helsing. The Helsing is like a jackass between all of them. All right? But the thing about it is...
No, we don't call him a jackass. We don't call him a jackass. He might be crying sing. Let me call him crying sing instead.
No, but let me tell you something.
Crying sing is better.
Yeah, but this guy, listen to me, with the experience that we had, we're dealing with this stranded citizen situation here.
Yeah.
Is that everything, not that dog bags, Cho Chong have full control.
Yeah.
Caribbean islands have no say. No minister can have no word, not a word.
Dr. mayhew,
Yeah.
I am a BLP, Barbados Labour
Okay.
Party.
Right. That's why it's so silent.
I born in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
And I am a BLP. My mother and father is Bajan. Good.
Yeah, good.
I don't
I- I-
support nobody.
Lloyd Best parents were Bajan too, you know.
Huh?
Did you know that?
Yes,
Lloyd
I
Best-
know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the cricketer guy, right?
Collymore, Elaine. What else? Best, Collymore, Elaine. Those are the three big Bajan names. What's your surname?
George Lamming, Benskin.
Yeah. I'm Braffet, of course. If someone's
Yeah,
Braffet.
of course, Braffet.
But,
Yeah.
what's your surname?
Benskin.
Oh, Ben Skin. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Mhm.
So,
You know
so we also-
Tyrone Benskin in Canada?
No, I don't.
He was an actor and he was a member of parliament in Quebec.
Oh, okay, all right, nice.
That's my cousin.
And he is in Barbados. He was
No,
from
Canada. Yeah, he's from Barbados. He was born in England, though, but he's my first cousin.
Barbados. Okay, nice.
Jermaine Abdullah says, my niece is a medical doctor with 2 vaccines and she got COVID.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
So I am advising people, vaccine and no vaccine, still follow the protocols. But the government should not be suppressing the people where you suppress their ability to work. You don't provide any support at all. You're playing politics with who you help, who you send a hamper, who you send a change from. It's only underhand kind of support for PNM supporters, because I have fought on some things, Dr. Rowley, and this wickedness that you're doing with distributing resources to our people and playing politics with it when you're supposed to be the prime minister of all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I called out.
Dr. Mayo, what are you saying?
Down,
Why you drink
Phantom.
tonight? What are you saying? Why you drink tonight?
I
I
feel
called
you
out.
taking a job.
What you saying? Why you drink?
I
You
called
just
up
said
for
guy
Joe
that
Hines
thing
on
in
this.
your cup or what?
I called up for Joe Hines on this. I said, listen, he asked me, I tell him, wicked or you own people. He want to know whose people. They think I'm trying to play a black and an Indian thing kind of thing. I said, no, he's the prime minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and he's responsible for all the people.
Yep,
All
including
the
this
people.
Bajan girl here. Because I'm
Whether they're
born in
inside-
Trinidad and Tobago.
Whether they're inside
Diana
or
siding with Gary
outside the
tonight,
country.
boy. Diana, what is that?
My birth paper say as a Trinidadian, and my mother and father say as a Bajan. So you're responsible for me, Dr. Rowley.
Tommy, whose side you taking, boy? Tommy,
Absolutely.
I plead in the 5th.
you pleading we want to say to Dr. Mayhew, we want to thank you so very kindly for joining us, man. We really appreciate this discussion.
That's and I want to say before I go,
Yeah.
you could still be a PNM, but when you go in the voting booth, you can still vote UNC.
Gary, you hear that, boy? Gary, you hear that?
We will see.
Yeah, but Dr. Mayhew, before you go, by the way, we have some favorite people who join us religiously, right? And Lana is one of the religious persons. We have a lot of other people. We have Rajvi tonight. Rajvi, you join us from. We have Jermaine Abdullah, welcome as well. We have quite a few people tonight, but the discussion was so fantabulous tonight. Lana says, hope we get Dr. Mayhew on the show again soon. You go come back, man.
Yeah. Listen, I tell Jolene that she has to come on here sometime very soon, because we want to continue this Tobago discussion on what's best for the people. We want to give you guys a chance so that your voice can be heard internationally. We are not allowing the government to suppress the truth. We will not tolerate this. I heard there was an incident with Uvashi where they suspended her. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm
But she's
sending
back.
a clear
Then
message.
she's back.
Yes, she's
She's
back.
back.
Yeah.
She's back.
I want to
You
send
gotta
a clear
go.
message to Dr. Rowley, and you see what happened to David Welsh today. And I'm sending a clear message to Commissioner, my best friend, and my namesake, Gary Griffith, that this nonsense that the police did to an unarmed guy who meant no harm is not going to be tolerated.
Word.
Okay?
Very good. Very good.
And let me tell you something. Me, as man, if the police going to treat me so, then it will be, I will return the favor.
Oh,
Understand that?
So
and if
Yeah.
they treat me so, I call him
I am
Miyamaki.
sending a clear message in the United States of America
I was
to
going to
Trinidad
say,
and Tobago that make up your mind. If you're going to treat me like this, I'm going to return the favor.
And if they treat me that way,
easy,
I'm gonna
Gary.
call on PM 𝗪𝗵𝘁𝘀𝗽𝗽 that they mistreated one of her citizens. All right,
the
and
opinions
Joe
of the
Biden
host,
too.
the
Good.
opinions of the host of WZYE is not necessary.
And I'm calling.
It's
I am calling all politicians.
comments of the management of WZYE
Not only PNM,
95.9
I'm
FM.
calling on all politicians to make sure that our people are not treated in such manner by the police and you remain silent. All politicians.
That's right.
I don't want to hear one politician in the UNC or in the PDP or any political party is silent on this level of treatment to any of our people. I am calling them out.
It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Mayhew, we want to thank you. Any closing words before you go?
Well, I just want to say it was a pleasure to be here. And, you know, it's always nice to engage with the diaspora. And good to see that you're interested. You know, spread the word. And you know, I enjoyed the respectful discussion. And I look forward to be here again.
Thank you so much, man. We appreciate it.
All right,
Thank you much.
thanks a lot.
Good
We'll be in
night.
touch.
Okay, good night.
Yeah. All right. Good night.
Good night.
Take care. Yeah. So, folks, I tell you, we did some good things tonight. You know, I'm still at Seton Hall.
Yeah, I just got home, you know. I just got home.
Yeah, well, I'm at Seton Hall because we had lost power in our community. So,
Well, me pay a light bill.
boy, TNT come and cut me like little boy.
They're hijacking you.
TNT send a long distance cut light for me, boy.
Listen, it's past my bedtime, you know. They have me up here long,
Man, I
you
know
know.
joke, but
Yeah.
I know
Yeah,
joke. I mean, we want to thank. Really want to say what you saw the police this day is joke. He lucky he's still alive. All right.
Hey, you know, Ansem, this
Yeah.
this is reminding me of what happened to our brother when the police put their foot on his neck.
Yeah.
You understand? And we've seen
Yeah.
this in America, right?
Yeah.
And
Correct.
what I'm saying to you, if the politicians, I'm talking on all of them, you know, I'm sending a message to Mrs. Bisesa too, that if she's silent on this nonsense, there's no support from us.
Yeah. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable all around.
right.
This is bad.
And
This is really bad. You know
if
what I mean?
me, as a human being, you're going to treat me like that, I'm going to return the favor to you. Okay?
Yeah, Gary, we don't believe in violence. Right?
No, what I'm saying to you, as man, I'm telling you, I'm not being violence. If you go, respect work both ways. All right, we need the police to be together with us. You break the law. I mean, these are some things I understand. But a guy that's walking the street, he doesn't have a machine gun in his hand. He walk in the street.
Yep.
Walk in the street. He following all the protocols. Walking towards to give a letter to the police commissioner, and you attack him. I'm telling you,
ambush him.
Not all of these people on the police force is with the commissioner. They're not following orders. They're doing their own damn thing. They're playing politics. Okay.
So Anthony Medford just joined us, and this is going to be the last comment I read. Anthony said, "Stand against PNM Rowley. Does not Prime Minister Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley does not mean that you do not support the PNM. It just means you do not support Rowley. You know, Anthony, that's a very good point. Yeah, that is a fantabulous.
Well, I have another point. For the level of wickedness you've seen being done to our people, you haven't seen the half of it yet. You have to talk to guys like, well, I mean, the Foster no longer with us. He give me a belly full of thing. But what I'm telling you is, our people, the people has been muzzled so much by the PNM that they're afraid to talk. They're dead.
You mean PNM people afraid to talk?
Is that mafia so kind of thing, boy?
We don't know. I mean, like Dr. Mayo sent some juice to you, so that long distance.
Boy, is that cough? Is that flu medicine, boy? That's not punching in it.
Oh, that's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah. But what I'm telling you is,
don't listen to Gary. You know, White Anthem is 10:38.
All right, we're gonna talk.
So, folks, I want to thank all of you. You know, so much for joining us tonight, and I joined you guys from Seton Hall. I'm still in my class. I wonder if I could turn this. No, forget that. I'm still in my class at Seton Hall, so I actually joined you guys in my class. You know, there was an outage in my community, so I really want to come here tonight because you know we had Dr. Vanus James and we had Dr. 𝗪𝗀𝘀𝗽𝗽, and I didn't want to disappoint the people, so I decided to come here to Seton Hall, you know, and do this. So you know, I'm gonna make my way out of here. So, folks, Diana, any closing words?
I'm going to be brief tonight. Yeah. I vex and I'm mad to see how that young man was treated. Right? All he was doing, he clearly stated in English, Trini lingo, Gary Griffith are coming to deliver a letter to you for the motorcade on Friday.
Yeah.
I don't see any threat in what the fellow was saying, right? From David Welch. And for those policemen to ambush him, they actually assaulted him, right? I thought that was unfair, very unfair. Right? He's a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. If he wasn't law-abiding, I guess he'd be locked up. So I'm going to assume here that he's a law-abiding citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, and he's going about his daily business. He's going to drop off a letter. So the policemen think they have the right to ambush him, and that is wrong. You're encroaching on his constitutional right of freedom of movement. You all restrained him, right? Ambushed him and restrained him. Whether or not he has a history of someone called me and tell me about provoking. No, you have the right to go about your business. If people are angry, they're fed up, they're frustrated, and going back to what Judge Volney said, that is the first ants that's going to come down out the hill. You see where he walked from? Morva. He walked from Morva Hill, right? Judge Volney said the ants are going to come down from the hill.
Well, they better watch out for them ants.
And he's ants number one. Now, if a whole bunch of ants start to do the same thing, or they're going to slam all of them down to the pavement, that's what you're going to do? Yeah. That's all the storm is going to say for tonight. But I'm vexed as hell the way all treating my fellow Trinbagonian citizen. I'm going to bid you all of leaders in tonight. I'm a little tired. Good night.
Answer. Send the commissioner of police an invite. We want to discuss this. I'll say good night from here.
Yeah. So let me say this. Never be afraid to raise your voice for honesty and truth and compassion against injustice and lying and greed. If people all over the world will do this, it will change the earth. Tommy, closing words?
Yes, sir. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. That's from MLK Jr. Also, the more humble a person is, the freer and stronger he is. That's by Leo Toptoy. That's Leo Toptoy. Also, we know one thing for sure, that we have to work. So we have to work, keep digging your well. Water is there somewhere. That's by Rummy. Let's keep on keeping on. Pleasant night to all.
Harry?
Yeah, brother. Well, I mean, this thing really got me upset today with how David Welch was treated. You know, I'm very furious, and I want to see a police force that the commissioner of police is really in charge of, not some people doing their own thing. Everybody want to run their own show and make a decision. I don't think Gary Griffith give an order like to do something like such. So I mean, he will have to live with it. But I want some answers from him. So I'm asking you to send him an invite. Seriously, I mean, the level of things. Yeah, we want to flush things out. I don't want to blame him, but I also want to chastise the force to work in his instructions and not go out there and do their own thing and make him look bad too at the same time. You know, so I'm with Gary Griffith, but I certain things we will not tolerate. And these are the things that the police mistreating our people. Because we want the people to trust the police, and we want this kind of community relationship to bind the country together. Not that the police becomes the enemy. Or if the police becomes the enemy, police makes themselves an enemy, they look for it. Simple talk, plain talk, all right?
And thanks, Gary. I'm going to close to say that treatment today of the young man was unacceptable. You know, we cannot stand for those type of things in Trinidad and Tobago. If we stand for those things in Trinidad and Tobago, it means that Trinidad and Tobago has become a police state. Folks, from where I said this is it, the clock on the wall said that's all I like to say, but I've got to go. Remember, hard work beats talent when talent does not work hard. And for every 60 seconds of anger, you lose 1 minute of happiness. And we're going to give you this song by DJ Bravo again. Take a listen. Don't go just yet. Listen to this.
47 music. This is a oh Lord, Trinidad and Tobago. This is DJ Bravo. I'm hurting you know. This is a sad place. My country turned into a sad place. When I look around, it's only sad face. Our country turned into a sad place. All I see in front of me, nightmares turn into reality. Like somebody build a monster factory. Parliament up in parliament economy. But let the moderators in another body in a dream. Somebody girl child missing, another rape again. And next road stain with somebody's son brain. Who take the S out of Port of Spain. This is a sad place. My country turned into a sad place. When I look around, it's only sad face. Our country turned into a sad place. Now with the love, with the vibes, with the hope. Now tell me something, how we really want we cope. When the children breathing in too much gun smoke. And the Coast Guard can never see a boat. You sound like some goats when they come looking for votes. Fit the empty promises, reading like a horoscope. Justice for sale in a fat envelope. Politically, all the answers is a joke. This is a sad place. My country turned into a sad place. When I look around, it's only sad face. Our country turned into a sad place. All I see in front of me, nightmares turn into reality. Like somebody build a monster factory. Parliament up in the parliament economy. But look the moderators in another body in a dream. Somebody girl child missing, another rape again. And next road stain with somebody's son brain. Who take the S out of Port of Spain. This is a sad place. My country turned into a sad place. When I look around, it's only sad face. Our country turned into a sad place. It doesn't matter the religion, the color, the creed, or the race. It's our responsibility to take care of our place. Champion.